And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Alien Spaceship stream. You can be watching from anywhere around the country or the world, and I really appreciate every single one of you. Coming to you from the Spaceship Studios from a galaxy far, far away. Now we'll be switching over to the other screen. Alright, hello everybody. I hope everybody's been having a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever everybody is. And are we playing the game and we talking about recently Bondi was in the facing off with during a deposition about the how the Epstein files were handled, and talk about some other things too, like some astronomy stuff I was getting into and other news that's going on. Okay. Oh, hello, Caravel. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. All right, now let's go here. Okay, let's go. Now we are getting into the game. Okay, here we are. This is the pirate game. Which I am doing this more. It's been a while since we've done this. Okay, so yeah, so now today the weather where I am is warming up more. It was cold more recently. A few of the plants that I have that are growing, they they're doing well, and I'm going to focus on some more of them. Yeah, see, this is some old fashioned, older architecture from Europe. Nice stucco architecture here. Okay. Yeah, and I'll be reacting to the situation with. If I didn't say it, I hope everybody's been having a good day. And if anything is new or anything is going on with anybody, would like to hear about it. Now, with I'm glad that the files are eventually released because people should know about what's going on. I understand it may take a while to get everything redacted, unredacted. It will be. What I mean by that is you have to redact pictures of people, and it takes a long time. So I've seen some little clips of it, and it seems like it got heated with their interdeposition. But there has been some new name drops because the thing about the files that were controversial is that people have been they redacted names of people that were most likely involved with the crime, and it's very wrong to they should be exposed. I'm sure there's some legal reasons why there is redactions of the names, especially victims, but I think it's good personally that they're exposing some of the names of people that were involved with it because I was reading through them. You haven't looked at them yet. I will warn you. It's very disturbing, and there are redacted images. So you'll see like a person with their face blocked off, right? But yeah, there's some disturbing images and messages uh, in there. So looking at some of the emails, in the emails, there's all kinds of things now that have to do with nothing to having to do with a lot of things that are disturbing. There's a code word for pizza that might have to do with underage children, allegedly. That was mentioned in the emails. There was this something I wasn't quite aware of until I discovered it was there's a DNA. He was sending 23andMe DNA kits to people all over the place. I agree with you, Caraville. Everybody that is in there that isn't a victim should be unredacted. I agree. You know, who are they trying to protect? It's like I think it's a lot of YouTubers are commenting about it's wrong that they were trying to conceal the identities of people who were potentially involved with hurting these children. Yeah, definitely. Because as I said, unless there's some legal thing that they had to do it, I think it should be seen to the public, completely transparent. Now, allegedly, there's some documents that have not been redacted yet, uh, that are being hidden. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but there's still more that may have not have been released. So, yeah, in those files, there is these 23andMe kits that were being sent out to people, and he was trying to create offspring allegedly to because he thought that his seed was superior and he wanted to create more offspring, and he had many people get those DNA kits. He did something with a sultan over in the Middle East where he was using him as a way to get property to acquire an island through an LLC because the guy didn't want to sell an island to a P file. So what Epstein did, he disguised it as a company. That way they couldn't figure out who was buying what. That's something that I was learning about. That was the DNA thing was wild to me. That he was getting these people just casually just being sent these 23andMe kits and just talking about it casually, like getting the mail. Something else that I thought was disturbing was in the lists. He had secretaries, quote unquote secretaries, and there's people that were trying to make appointments, and by doing making these appointments with the girls, which is very creepy because they were trying to do these disturbing things with the victims. It seems like all kinds of people are coming through to do that stuff. Very creepy, and that's why names need to be shown. That's something that I want to see. There is Lexner, who is a founder of Victoria's Secret. He was in them, which I'm not. He seems to be somebody that did the nefarious activity. Not surprised that he did that. He owns a lot of companies. There was Leon Black, which certainly I think had something to do with it too. There is in the files there is information between him and attorneys exchanging things back and forth. So that means that he was involved in the scandalous case. Wow. Caravel said, yeah, one billionaire apparently paid for DNA of Britney Spears because he wanted a clone of her to raise as an adult. That is so creepy. Yeah, this is certainly getting into the science fiction territory, but being used something that could be used for good was being used for something very creepy. These sickos. I do think there are evil elites that are into occultic practices that want to harvest and use for their own deviant pleasure because they're sickos like serial killers, people that have like an addiction to doing evil things like that. Oh, and apparently through a spiritual perspective, there is something called not it's like a scientific and spiritual perspective. Androchrome is allegedly something that kids possess a lot and they try to harvest it, kind of like how they had those movies of a magic potion that makes you young. That's what. So there are occultists out there that in these dark arts that believe this stuff, and there does seem to be some scientific information about it, where they want to use this for the dark rituals. So that's really down the rabbit hole. But yeah, there's that too, and there's also your typical people that have a disturbing fantasies or desires, cravings to do stuff to children, which is evil too. So yeah, all of that, and they come into one group and they are doing that. So that's why I think is absolutely names need to be exposed. There's still millions of files to be examined. I have been making videos about it. I have some more to, and can I give you all a preview of what the other video is going to be about, which is the about the 23andMe DNA weird stupid stuff. That one really was like, whoa! It's like you're going when you go down the rabbit hole. There's all kinds of like every single file. There's like something in it that's quite haunting. Now, something that has been covered by myself and others is the diary journal, which is encryptic, which was a cryptic journal of what a victim was talking about with her experience. It was deciphered, so it's really a ciphered journal that was deciphered by an attorney, and she was describing having Epstein's kid, about different billionaires doing stuff that were creepy to her, and just a variety of different experiences that she had, which I think is insanely disturbing. But she had like a lot of pictures in there of regular things and inspirational sayings to help her, cope with what happened. Uh, that was something that I thought was an important find. Besides the other important finds, I like reading legal documents because of trial stuff. I would read a lot of documents, so I was looking over that, just describing what the girls would go through. For those that have not seen the files, it was they very frightened. Usually people would be nice to them at first, but they were unsettled about it, that there was something not right. There obviously there was abuse that occurred, and there was lots of suspense, and they were put in these vehicles with tinted windows. It's the psychological torment was just really a lot for them, besides the actual thing that occurred. So there's pictures of his houses, inside his houses. They look very luxurious mansions. The money didn't fall out the sky. It came from somewhere. And there was one picture of basements, creepy basements. You imagine that's probably where a lot of people may have been herded around, or things happened in there. There's a bloody handprint on a wall. It's just a lot of unanswered questions. Lots of surveillance. They would have security cameras too. People are under constant surveillance. So, yeah, those are some examples of what was found in there recently. And yeah, everybody's name needs to be exposed. Whoever was responsible, whoever did something, needs to be held accountable as well. Alright, twisting over this way. Let's go there. There was a last interview that Epstein did where he was talking about his jobs and theories about economics and some spiritual stuff, which was odd. He just was basically a con artist that was able to disguise himself a certain way, where he didn't get a proper education to do, say, teaching or be in Wall Street, but he was able to BS enough to convince people that he was the right person for the job. But back then, they didn't really always check for credentials like they do now. I think it would be more difficult now for him to fake a lot of that stuff. Okay, we attacking that. Right, and hitting this one right there. Here we go. Yeah, we're getting the bounty hunter right now in the game, by the way. So yeah, that is he just very creepy, very crooked. He was also asked if he's the devil, and he said he wasn't. The devil scares him, but he's a good mirror, and he has all these creepy smiles to him. And yeah, I just definitely does not hesitate to be to hide it. You know, a lot of people try to hide it, but he just did everything out in the open. And all the emails that he did were all on the clear web, which is a Gmail. Now, there's something called the deep web, the dark web, where people do a lot of these sick things, and people in other countries that may not have freedom like we do here, and they could express themselves different ways. They haven't. The problem with that is, you know, there are people, independent researchers, that are able to detect and sense information to the authorities. But yeah, this guy, as I said, wasn't even trying to hide it. I've seen. There's lots of blackmail too. Like they'll take pictures of celebrities and famous people with victims, and like, oh, you're with this 15-year old, so you gotta do what we say. You know, so that's what they did. Wasn't sure when or if they were gonna release the files, but finally, I'm glad that they were released. If there's any more likely to be seen, we could hold people accountable that really did it. There were suspicions about Epstein somehow being. There's some suspicion about him, uh, according to people that were there. Right, there were people that were at the prison that were claiming he was not. You would call. He was transported somewhere. Is what I'm trying to think of. That's what the claims are. Okay. Let's see. We have the comments are saying, well, he had some high-profile clients that he felt was invincible, and RC says Assad funded Jeff's business for leverage on prominent persons. Yeah, I've heard about those theories too. Yeah, there's some suspicion about them being involved with it as well. And you know, any foreign countries or groups that are aware of these things or are involved in these crimes need to be held accountable. Because you know this network is vast, and there was an Israeli prime minister that was in the was involved with Epstein too. Yeah. All right. And Kerbal said, I mean, even when he got busted the first time, Bondi and all of them helped smooth it over, so he was right. And yeah, I don't completely know in the beginning why there was so much issues with the like trying to release them exactly, because they were like saying that the files like didn't exist, and then they come out with them. Uh, Maybe they had to redact things. I don't quite understand, but eventually they released the different files out there. But I'm glad that the administration under this one they did release them, unlike in the past. So that is a positive thing. But I understand when you have millions and millions of files, they need to redact maybe some victims' photos, but the people that were redacted that did the crime need to not be redacted. They need to be exposed everywhere. The old sweetheart deal from 2008. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks, Careful. I'm not completely familiar with that one, but I'll look into it. The and Maxwell had a deposition the other day, and she was pleading the fifth. Yeah, so when they're pleading the fifth, it means that they're given a constitutional right to not incriminate themselves. Because there's some sort of habeas corpus thing, but I don't even know if Maxwell would tell the truth about what was happening. You know. All right. Okay, now we're going to go a little bit quicker and get into position for the next attack of the game. Okay. Deschewitz and Starr got him an 18-month sentence where he was still about to leave work during the day and surrender in the evening. Oh, okay. It was almost like Brian Steele deal where he was supposed to get jail for weekends. Ah, yeah. I remember that. And so the oh, hello Moki. Good evening to you. Welcome to the stream. Out of I hope that you're having a good day with your quests. How did they go? I hope it went well. And Zero's in the game with me, by the way. And yeah, so yeah, Brian Steele, when he was in YSL trial, he was held in contempt, and then he was supposed to serve jail on the weekends, but he was able to get out of that situation. Yeah, that's a very good example. Careful. So, but I'm glad to see unity between the two parties where they're both sides want these information released. You know, it shows that not everybody was involved with it. Obviously, where uh, the people that are involved with this creepy stuff are really high up, and yeah, there's just Hollywood, and I will keep saying this over and over again. You know that the Hollywood tree is a tree that they use to make magic with, and Hollywood is still there, you know, in the same way because they're using. Although movies are cool, they can do magic tricks with them and influence the public in certain ways. So, and I do believe that there are these people that have done these creepy things, like with Epstein, etc., have a lot of influence. That's why they're able to get away with it. If it was regular Joe Schmo, they would be able to not get away with it as well. So I'm glad there are more. It's being exposed more. So if, like a television is like a tell-a-vision, and a channel is like a channel, like they channeled spirits, things like that. You can use certain rhythmic tunes, and I do sound effects. So I'm kind of aware of these things from studying about it, the conspiracy theories, where they can influence people to think and do stuff a certain way, possibly. And I just think a lot of people are uh, dumbed down, so to speak, not like how we are here. Of I think they are going to be completely exposed of, as I said, and continue to be exposed. But yeah, that's what they were doing. They were in these occults. They are using the same symbolism as they did before with the modern technology, but they're, as I said, they want people to not be awake about what's going on with the world. They want people to be stuck in the matrix, so to speak. Yeah. Information has come out about how Trump was. He called the FBI on Maxwell and Epstein. It's recently been revealed in the documents, which is good, I think, because he knew him for a long time. But Epstein was known to try to get his hands in his pockets of influential people everywhere. Uh, and he wanted to talk to Harvard professors, he talked to colleges. He That's his whole plan, was to disguise himself a certain way. He would talk about mathematics, and he talks about things that he'd sound very intelligent, and I'd say he's very like a trickster, like a snake. He uses his skills for deception. But yeah, he absolutely was able to get his around those people, blackmail them, and get clients that want to do creepy things. Yeah. and the conspiracies about him being alive, where his one of his YouTube accounts that he used for Fortnite was active, and there's bank accounts that are being moved around. There is a police officer that was saying on Reddit that was confirmed, uh, allegedly confirmed to be true, was that they moved Epstein was moved to a van from the prison, and he was shackled to a like a wheelchair. They also came out with his death. No, like a death certificate, so to speak, about Epstein a day before he died. So it's kind of weird. Scared. Okay, what's her name? I don't want to even watch the Olympics because I think the Olympics committee is in bed with one of the world order and their Satan worship. They display it on every opening ceremony. Yeah, it's very creepy that they have the pentagram. And Zero and I defeated the enemies. All right, that's good. Yeah, I think with Epstein, those people associate with Epstein, and the the pentagram, a satanic symbol that was inside, completely completely inside the Olympics that is being displayed. And as I said, I say this before, if it has to do with Greek mythology, that's fine. But the Olympics have nothing to do with Abrahamic religions or Satanism. It's kind of bizarre to put anything like that in there. So all I'm saying is it's out of character for them. It's off topic. So they're trying to send another type of message. I believe a satanic power has taken over the country, and the Western, all hemispheres pretty much have been influenced by it, as the Bible and the different religions talk about, of even non-Christian religions, about evil, about treating people correctly, that prophesied end times. I don't know when that's going to be, but we're certainly getting closer to it. And I do think it could be rated by a type of technology we have, which can influence how close or how far these things can be. Granson's been reading into the files. He told me some of the stuff that's there. It's awful. Oh yeah, there's, uh, it's vomitable pretty much. This stuff. Oh, I forgot the Navy. All right, I mean Ravens Cove. That's on the other end of the world. Let's. I'll go to. Ravens Cove is right in front of me, actually. Okay, let's go that way. Let's go. It's biblical spiritual war. We are in. Okay. Let's see. Apps. File. Okay. Files and Ravens Cove. All right. So shout out to chat. I appreciate all y'all's comments, even if I'm not like reading everything. Drinking baby's blood for years. It's really not new info. More people know now. My grand is here in son, yeah, and biblical spiritual we're in, and watching Nancy with recapping poor woman. Oh yeah, so okay. Uh, well, let's go fight this right here. All right, let's go. Um, Baby part eating stuff. Yeah, just about the satanic cults and the occulticness in Hollywood, because there's evidence and proof for it that we can reference to. Uh, And it certainly is can be far fetched, but I definitely do. Obviously, something is going on there. Be very careful here. Very careful here. It's probably best to just do a turn right here and divide and conquer in that way. Haha. Ooh, they hit us with a fireball. I could take the ship out, by the way. Let's see. Yeah, and there's lots in Hollywood of eating humans. Like they have like a human on a they have food and they'll pretend that it's a human being being eaten. That is the kind of stuff that we're referring to. All right. Yeah. So, and rituals go back to ancient times. So they had ancient pagans that sacrificed people, stuff like that, and even, I mean, uh, all the fate religions had sacrifices. So there really are aliens. You owe Scott money. I bet we have. Oh. All right, and yeah, I see. Like with aliens. Oh no, I'll tell you this. It's like back in the ancient times, the Romans they saw objects in the sky that were mysterious ships, mysterious flying ships in the sky. That's what they were seeing. Biblically speaking, they talked about chariots of fire, and oh, so they're going to have me to Devil's Anvil. Okay, they have me all around the Caribbean. So yeah, so before our modern technology that we have now, there were civilizations claiming that they were seeing flying things in the sky. Even the 18, no, the 1400s in Germany, they saw UFOs, which could have been explained as a dog star. It could have been some reflection, but certainly flying things in the sky that can't be explained from ancient civilizations till now have been talked about. And yeah, there's the skinny Bob thing that I think is true. Now, I do think, in my opinion, that a lot of UFO sightings are fallen angels, but there are those that are actually real, of that are from other planets. I believe with all the billions of stars out there, there are other civilizations out there. Yes, but I do think there is truth to aliens that we see can also be fallen angels from other dimensions. For instance, Aleister Crowley, which is one of the occultists, he summoned a demon that was called Lam, and it looks similar to a gray alien. Yes, I believe Skinny Bob was real. It's blinking and it moves around. It's that's something that's like sold me to the alien theory. All right. Okay, and now speeding to the shore. Okay, now we're repaired. Now we could go and attack. Oh, okay, understood. Oh yeah, the Titan sub. That one was cool. I like that one. That story. Uh, because it just shows how stupid people can be. Like the arrogance, like that was really foolish. Definitely. All right, and you're going this way. Oh, they're getting close. They're getting close. But we got this. Oh. Oh. This is going to be interesting, chat. We're not supposed to get that close. All right, good. All right, turning that way, and then we're going to finish this one off. You're waiting for the CTV people to take the news. Oh, okay. Uh-oh. Now, after this one, we're going to dock. Oh, okay. They bought CTV. Nice. Our shot to zero helped us get to shore. Four screen boots. I gotta get that one. Okay. Trash. Um, take it all. New trial opening statements tomorrow, and M.I. Verdale Warner is charged with 2021 murder of his wife, Dee Warner. Dee was last seen April 25, 2021 at her home. November 23. Dale was arrested and charged with disappearances and murder. These remains were found in August 24. Lori's charged property and county belonged to Dale. All right. 7C Sea Globe. Oh. One thing in this game, it should have a bigger inventory, by the way, but it doesn't. That's where all the staffs are. Oh, that's a rusty sword. It's not a rusty sword. Oh, that war sword. Hello, Aaron. Great. It's great to see you. Welcome to the stream. Alrighty. Well, I didn't even realize I could use that doll now. That's cool. Okay. Cleanse that. Thank you, Moki. Moki says new trial. A jury has been selected in Georgia versus Colin Gray opening statement Monday. Colin Gray is father of the Appalachian High School suspect in Colton. Okay. Colton charged with 29 counts, including second degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and more. He is accused of purchasing AR style rifle as a Christmas gift to his son months prior. Police were alerted, then contacted Colin about online threats link his son Colt. Okay. All right. Right, Hunter. I'll figure out something. Let's see. Or that pistol. Okay. We're getting on the move soon. Let's see. Buccaneer. Got a perfect idea. Let's get rid of this one. Just a souvenir. Let's go. All right. All right. Now, where is he? I'm coming. That's zero in the game right there. Probably watched a Warner case. Okay. Hello, mermaid. Good evening to you. Okay. Oh, let's get the dagger out right here. Let's get the dagger. All right. I got a sea dog's dagger. Where is he? Right there. A sea dog dagger. Well, I have one of these staffs too. Yeah. Shout out to Mermaid. Excellent. Always nice to have her on board. Yeah, Mermaid. Have you have you seen of? We're talking about different things of Epstein and Bondi too, and the satanic occults and stuff like that, and some trials. Yeah, that was the that was in Caraville. That was I think Michael, but I don't know if Caraville was here for that. But let's see. All right. See, now we have a double halo right here. Okay. Yeah, it was Michael. Caravel hasn't been here in about a minute. All right. Thank you, Mermaid. See, that's so cool with the skull right there. Yeah, okay, but thank you, Mermaid, for apologizing about that. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mermaid. That was very sweet of you. We'll yeah. Now, Zero, if you could hear me, figure out what the Kraken's layer is exactly and how that's accessed. I'm just if you could find out about that, I'm curious. Okay, I'm going to like Tortuga just to go there, but okay, Zero left the game, shot the Zero. I don't know if it was done on purpose or by accident. Right. Oh yes, absolutely. Michael would appreciate it. He would appreciate that very much. And Mermaid, thank you so much, Mermaid, for doing that. It's very sweet. Very proud. Yeah. All right, let's go here. Uh, Bubbles is eating me right now. So I'm gonna play Pam Bondi's thing Congress thing while I go feed this cat because Bubbles is eating my arm. He's biting on me. He's biting over all over me. All right, so let's go down here. Oh, okay. Thank you, Zero. Thank you. It requires a Kraken Wake expansion, whatever that is. Okay. Oh, I haven't seen Sea Still in ages either. Alrighty. I'm gonna switch to window for a second. So, what's his name? The cat can get his food. All right, diamonds. Okay, good. Let's turn the sound off because it's going to be it's the audio. All right, switching over.
Grasping is something they can charge their enemies with, We now have concrete evidence of disgusting criminality revealed in the Epstein files. So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very interesting.
You can
that
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about
but
they indicted. The president said they indicted him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock and restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you ask a question, the witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to answer.
The question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest. So he asked a 4-minute question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I
Mr.
am
Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not
said
a
that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go
All
right
right.
ahead.
My time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None
has
of the perpetrators
expired.
have been brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
have been
of the
dedicated
gentleman
to
has
pursuing Trump's
expired,
enemies.
and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
There was
no longer
no
works
question
for the American
in there
people. It works
for her to
for Donald
respond to.
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
May I answer?
I think our next questioner, Madam Attorney General, is going to give you time to respond to
Thank you, Chairman.
all kinds of things. So we will turn to the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
Ms. Bondi, you go right ahead. I'm over here. The time is yours.
Thank you. First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice, and you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, all the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million, and Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an
Wow.
extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year. National median rents have fallen to a 4-year low thanks to Donald Trump. That's why they want to focus on Epstein and our most transparent president in the nation's history. The murder rate, as I said, has plummeted to a 125-year low thanks to Donald Trump. For an unprecedented 9 straight months, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. That's what we should be focused on. All the great work that this president has done and will continue to do to keep America safe and to make Americans safe.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note that Mr. Nadler's question has not yet been answered, but I want to start by asking that out of respect for the American public and the Epstein survivors, some of whom, of course, are here today, that we can have a transparent conversation and get the public the answers they deserve. I want to briefly direct your attention to 2 documents I'm hoping we will put up on the screen. In the first, an individual emails Jeffrey Epstein asking whether a woman identified as M was pro or civilian, and Epstein responds that she was a civilian, Russian, and fun. In the second email, Epstein writes to Steve Tisch about a Ukrainian girl, noting that she was, quote, a little freaked out by the age difference and stating that he would try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. He then instructs Mr. Tisch to call him, adding, I don't like records of these conversations. So I'd like to ask a straightforward question that really is either a yes or no answer. Do these emails constitute credible evidence, not proof, but credible evidence warning further investigation into whether Steve Tisch was involved in Epstein's criminal conduct? Do you think yes or no?
I'm not going to play a yes-no game with you, but I will answer the question to the best of my ability. As I said, we will look and investigate any case involving any victim. I'm not familiar, there were 3 million pages, of course, with that email, but of course, we will look into anything. The documents have been released, 3 million. The redacted versions, we left them open for all of you to come view. I believe you view them. If not, will you have some copies?
I'd like to.
Could I finish, please? I'm not being rude, please.
I only have 5 minutes.
No, yeah, and I only have 30 seconds based on your filibustering.
Well, you didn't give a yes or no answer,
California.
so let me just go further. Director Patel testified in this committee room that there was no credible information indicating that Epstein trafficked victims to anyone else. And glancing at the documents, that proves that's not the case. In July, your department issued a memo stating that it had conducted an exhaustive review of the Epstein files and concluded that no additional individuals would be charged. So I did go over to the Department of Justice yesterday. I would note that 400 and all our 35 members are in the House, and there's 4 computers. So it would take many months to actually have the time. I only had a few hours. I think the transparency argument is really kind of a sham because it's not really possible.
Whoa. Did you have to wait to get a computer?
It is not possible to really go in. I did, however, see a U.S. attorney information for the Southern District of New York indicating that there were additional survivors and probable co-conspirators. Other members of Congress have uncovered likely co-conspirators whose names were blocked out. Now, the Epstein File Transparency Act, which all but one member of this House voted for and the president signed, requires the department to release everything except that it needs to be redacted to protect the victims or an ongoing prosecution, which apparently there is none from the testimony we have received. I am concerned that this act has not been fully complied with. When Director Patel came to the committee, he admitted that up to 1,000 FBI agents had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them. And it's pretty clear that what has been transmitted from the FBI continues to redact President Trump's name, even though he is mentioned, thousands of times in these files. So I think the credibility of the department in terms of complying with the act has been damaged. And I think the department's credibility has been damaged in other ways. I think we all saw the horrible video of American citizens being killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis. And I think how the department has handled these cases raises a lot of doubt about the department. State and local police in Minnesota got a court order to get access to the crime scene to be sure evidence would be properly preserved by federal agents. But they took the agents defied the court order, and in a departure from general policy, the DOJ is not collaborating with state and local law enforcement on these homicides. So I really think that is a disgraceful approach to the homicides of American citizens, and really does nothing to bring credit to your department. And Mr. Chairman, I would yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
May I answer?
Attorney General can respond.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus, this is a hearing. I find it interesting she keeps going after Donald Trump. She doesn't say how much money she took from Reid Hoffman, did you? None. And nor did
Mr.
she
Chairman,
post
regular
anything.
order, please.
She
regular
posted
order.
nothing on her X account,
Gentlelady.
on her Twitter account during the Biden years.
Gentlelady.
And yet now, all of a sudden,
question
she's
asked.
going after
Committee will be in order.
There was no
Committee will
question
be in
asked
order.
of the Attorney General. She doesn't just get to speak.
Committee will be in order.
I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Committee will be in order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady can state her point of order.
When a witness attacks...
Not a valid point of order. You got to state.
She hasn't completed her point of order yet. Please let her speak, Mr. Chairman. Let's have some regular order here.
Regular order is you got to state the rule. And
I am trying to make a point of order that the witness,
And what rule are you referring to?
without responding to a question, has attacked me personally. I think it's pathetic that she can't answer the questions and
First
instead
time
is
that
attacking
is not even close
members
to a
of the
point of
committee.
order. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized. Chair is now recognized for 5 minutes. Madam Attorney General, you're not allowed to exercise your constitutional rights in a way that tramples on someone else's, are you?
No.
No, you can't do that. I mean, you have a right to petition the government under the First Amendment. That doesn't mean you can come into this room and start screaming at Mr. Raskin or me or anybody else and disrupt a congressional hearing. You have a right to protest on the street, but that doesn't give you a right to go into the Capitol and disrupt Congress. Something these guys talk about every day. You can't do that. So when Don Lemon said that he was exercising his First Amendment free press rights, freedom of the press rights, that's not really accurate because he was trampling on other individuals' rights. Is that true?
Chairman, we will always protect our churches and the freedom of religion. And yes, that's accurate.
First right mentioned under the First Amendment, freedom of religion. Freedom to practice your faith the way you think the good Lord wants you to, right?
That's right, under the federal government.
And isn't it true that Mr. Lemon met at a shopping center with the rioters who entered City's church in St. Paul, met with them prior to marching to the church?
He did meet, and this is a pending case right now, so I will only stick to what is in the four corners of the unsealed indictment, if I could, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm
There's
focused
a lot more that will come out. But under the four corners of the indictment, yes, he did. They had an operation called Operation Pull-Up. They said they were gearing for a resistance. They met in a parking lot, and they caravanned to a church on a Sunday morning when people were worshiping together.
And Mr. Lemon said that he live streamed before entering the church with the rioters. Didn't he say we're going to head to the operation? Didn't he say this he said this on camera, is that right?
Yes, Chairman,
Yeah.
and more.
That he was in Minnesota and that, as you said, they were gearing up for an operation. So Again, you can't do that. This is why this is, I think, so important that this guy be held accountable, and I think why you guys have charged him and indicted him. Moving to the second subject here. Will John Brennan be indicted? Mr. Brennan lied to the committee, which you're not supposed to do, last Congress, and we deposed him. He definitely, 18 U.S.C. 1001, we're all familiar with it. He lied to the committee, and the committee, the Congress, and I think the country would like to know if, in fact, he's going to be indicted for lying. And here's why it's so important. I'll give you a chance to respond. Here's why it's so important. It wasn't just that he lied to us, it's what he lied to us about. He lied to us about when all this weaponization against the President of the United States started. He lied to us about the dossier, and specifically what role the dossier played in the intelligence community assessment. Because we know back when President Trump was first elected, first term, this is when it all started, which led to the Mueller and to the impeachment and to the Jack Smith and all the stuff that's happened in the last decade. But it began here, and he lied to Congress about the role he played. And I just want to read a couple of things he said during that deposition before I give you a chance to respond. Mr. Brennan, when asked a question, said the CIA was not involved at all with the dossier. He said it was their purview, FBI's purview, and not ours. He also said the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. Well, that's interesting because declassified information that was declassified this past summer by the CIA says something entirely different. It says, Brennan, I want to put this one up if we have it. It says, Brennan ultimately formalized his position in writing stating that, quote, this is released by the CIA Director Ratcliffe, my bottom line is that what I believe that information warrants inclusion in the report. He was further asked by an CIA official. The same officer said when he approached the director and asked that the director refused to remove it after being explained this wasn't good. With the dossier's many flaws, he said, yes, but doesn't it ring true? So this is John Brennan using that document to change intelligence community assessment, which I think led to all the stuff we've seen over the last decade. And I think this committee in the country, Congress in the country, would like to know if Mr. Brennan is going to be indicted.
What I can confirm is that we have received a referral from you, Chairman Jordan, to investigate John Brennan. His attorneys have made some public statements, but the department is still bound, of course, by our longstanding policy of not discussing matters. What I will say today, I can't confirm nor deny whether there is a pending investigation, but what I will say is no one is above the law.
Mr. Chairman,
Weaponization has ended.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Bondi, it's been reported that there were at one point 1,000 personnel assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Were those reports accurate?
I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents
how
that
many
have
people were
been released.
assigned?
If I could finish, I'm going to read you the stats.
I just simply asked whether or not it was true that it was 1,000 folks who were assigned that task. Were those reports accurate?
There are more than 500 attorneys and reviewers. I cannot give you an exact number.
And I wanted to ask you, if it's accurate.
There are more than 500 attorneys and reviewers. I cannot give you an exact number.
And I wanted to ask you about that also, because this is a different question that you're getting to now. There were 500 DOJ lawyers and others assigned the task of redacting the appropriate information, including identities of the Epstein victim survivors from the Epstein files prior to their release. 500, is that correct?
If I could have finished my answer, There were more than
I'm
500 attorneys and reviewers who
Okay.
assisted
All right, okay.
with the. They
That
asked
answers
the question and they don't want an answer.
That answers my question,
Congressman,
ma'am,
let
and
me
I'm going to
continue.
move on.
More than.
I'm going to move on.
From
General
multiple
Bondi, would you
You will be in
agree?
order.
This
Time
is
belongs.
ridiculous.
The time belongs to the gentleman from Georgia.
General Bondi, would you agree that your 8 years of service as the state of Florida's Attorney General, the third largest state in the nation, served as an excellent preparation for your current role as Attorney General for the United States of America?
Not only that, I was a career prosecutor for 18 years.
And for
18 years.
And for 18
prior
years,
to being
for 18
He
years,
asked a
you
question and doesn't
prosecuted.
want an answer. This is theatrics.
Well, no, for 18 years, you
on.
prosecuted serious felony cases, including drug cases, correct?
Oh, I prosecuted homicides. I prosecuted capital cases. I prosecuted domestic violence cases. I prosecuted multiple cases, and that's why I feel for all of these victims. And did you ask Merrick Garland this when you were sitting before him, sir?
You also prosecuted sexual assault cases and child sex trafficking cases, correct?
I answered that question earlier.
Okay.
I prosecuted
All right.
multiple cases
So
when
bottom
I was
line,
a prosecutor.
bottom
If I
line,
can
you're an
answer the question,
experienced and seasoned.
for 18
you're an
years.
Mr. Chairman, will you a reminder of the rules? The time belongs to the member of the committee.
You
I think
are
I've said that a few
seasoned
times.
and experienced prosecutor, correct?
I think we've established that.
Yes or no?
Does he want an answer or not?
he wants to
When
say
I
no.
I want a
answer,
yes
I
or
get
no
cut off.
answer.
I think he wants the
I
same
want a
answer.
yes or no
I
answer,
can-
but
yeah, I can
I'll
explain my
live with what you
experience. I'd
have
be
already
love to
said.
explain
Let
my
me ask you.
experience.
Let me ask you this questions.
Clearly,
in
you
the
don't have any.
prosecution of sexual assault cases, you are acutely aware of how important it is to protect the identity of victims of sexual assault, correct?
I have addressed this multiple times. I think others were cutting me off when I was trying
Well,
to.
I just simply asked, are you aware of the fact that it's vitally important to protect the identity of sexual assault victims as you prosecute the people they accuse of assaulting them? Isn't that correct?
Excuse me. As we have said multiple times,
Protection of the
protection
identity
of all victims
of the victims
are
is
protected.
so very
Who are
important.
protected under? Do you want me to answer or do you want to interrupt?
Well, because you're not answering the question. You do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here, and I just want you to answer my questions.
What does Jekyll and Hyde mean? Can you
Well, it
explain
means
that?
you're nice to the
Explain
Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats. But let me ask you this, ma'am. We have the Epstein victim survivors here today. Representative Jayapal asked a simple question. If you would be so kind and honorable as to turn around and face them and apologize to them for outing them. I mean, how many lives have been derailed because your department was either sloppy and incompetent or willfully
Yeah, I definitely think that if anybody that was involved with this should be held accountable, and anything about Trump, whatever he did or didn't do, should be seen to the public, and they shouldn't be censored, so to speak. So if Trump is in something, it should be shown, especially if he didn't do anything wrong. On the contrary, I do think that, in my opinion, the opposition, if they had known about it, of Trump, would have used these things against him if he was doing something with Epstein in a bad way, if they knew about it. And in a newly released document, the Trump he called the police chief of Palm Beach and expressed support in investigation of Epstein and Maxwell. And Epstein, in his later interviews, showed he really didn't like Trump that much at all at some point. They had a falling out. So those are positive signs that he didn't do anything, but as I said, whatever is the truth, let it be shown. some quotes from Trump was he said to the chiefs, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone knows he's been doing this. He has claimed people in New York. Epstein is disgusting." Viola Maxwell. Trump specifically referred to Maxwell as Epstein's operative, described her as evil, advising police to focus on her. Oh, okay, understood. Careful, thank you. Let's see. And we call him Diarrhea Don now because it works better than Sleepy Don, even though he falls asleep more than Joe. Oh, okay. Thank you, Delight, for your thoughts on this. And let's see, yeah, that's the thing with, he knew a lot of influential people, Epstein, and he was trying to, and there's lots of clients he had that were involved in these creepy things. So, as I said, everybody needs to be exposed across the board. And Trump alleged that he had been around Epstein once, who teenagers were present and immediately got the hell out of there. And he also claimed to have thrown Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club. Yeah, that's so. Those are some things about Trump not being involved in something creepy. But as I said, anything that truly is out there, let it all be shown. There's nothing to hide. Let it be shown. So, okay, and that is some Epstein stuff. And this Bondi could have done much better, in my opinion. Definitely was not handled the best. I will agree with that. With chat, definitely. Okay, now continuing.
Trying to intimidate and punish these ladies
Your time
for
is
coming
up.
forward.
The time of the
Which
gentleman,
was it?
The time of the gentleman has expired.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. I'm going to show you two photos.
Thank you.
Like I said, some prosecutions are probably complicated by abusers not being an American like the Sultan. Yeah, when you're dealing with international crime like that, it's very difficult to prosecute different people. You know, Duke says diarrhea. Okay. With the prosecution of, you get the international. I don't know the laws about that, but I'm sure it's probably very complicated, especially in the Middle Eastern countries. It'd be difficult to extradite somebody over here. But yeah, there's a sultan that was involved in it. He was one of the sultans had to do something with buying a property for Epstein so he could have the island. Another one was buying a 23andMe kit for his wife. So yeah, there's a couple people over there that were involved with this very strange behavior. Almost like Frog is here, right? Okay. But tons of them are U.S. to start there. Yeah, anybody in the U.S. that was responsible, start there. And in spite of the controversies, I am glad that these files have been released, which I wish they weren't so redacted, including the people that were responsible for the behavior need to be unredacted. You know, because before no one showed interest in it, so I'm glad in this time, at least, we have these files that are being circulated now.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that
right? And you see on the screen a very disturbing image of appears to be an underage victim on the ground, and this it looks like in the background there's somebody that's like laying on a table too. Like, I'll show you all, y'all can see it better. Right there's somebody like laying on a table. It's very creepy. Yeah, this, I don't know what's going on here. It looks very wrong, and he looks like just some depraved, like a chupacabra. That's what he looks like. So yeah, very disturbing indeed. And point prosecution just exactly, Rita. I don't know. That is a very good question. And I also don't understand why they have gone Zorro Ranch or whatever to look for bodies. Yeah, definitely they need to look for the bodies over there, wherever they are. It may take some time to get it completely done, but they need to look at the bodies everywhere where they are, definitely. Because there's been incidences of some of the girls dying, being murdered. Say somebody got drunk and died from alcohol poisoning or things like stuff like that, or by strangulation from their kinky activities. All of that was the bodies are just all over the place. I think, from especially if they're on a specific island or a place, you need to go and find them. Ranch is owner of Zorro Ranch. Oh, okay. Okay, you see the feet on the table right there. To me, it looks like it's curved and going upwards, but maybe y'all are right. I'm not too sure what's going on there with that. Okay. Let's go this way and continuing. Alright, said I saw a picture today of two teen girls kissing on top of other redacted, but you could tell while Jeffrey was joking, his package with clothes on everyone had clothes. It made me cry. Yeah, very evil. I was going through his depraved comic book fantasies about with the teenage girls, and there's these redacted images of really young girls. It's very creepy. Yeah, Mermaid, that's very heartbreaking. Definitely. Okay. Thank you, chat. You may think it's Ghislaine. Okay.
Correct.
I'm sorry that we redacted the victims.
Because you were following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established.
Oh, she meant touching. Okay. Thank you, Mermaid, for clarifying.
That please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated,
I completely agree that redacting the images or protecting anybody was extremely wicked, if that was the intentions behind it. Whoever came up with that was not good, because they need to be hunted down. Ghislaine taking bets in Macau and Vegas is not, but she gets pardoned. Ghislaine. Okay, Ghislaine getting pardoned. Okay. I hope that she doesn't get pardoned, but we'll see what happens. It'll be a clown show either way. Yeah. Thank you, Delight, for your information. Also, Mermaid, everybody else. Appreciate this group discussion.
quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I
question.
answer your question about protecting
You answered
Prince
the
Andrew?
question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files. like former Prince. Here's the video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock.
Stop
the clock.
the legislation. This is
Time,
I'd like to
ridiculous.
reclaim my time.
time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center.
Yeah, definitely Prince Weasel. Yeah, another thing about Epstein himself is that it shows how cowardly he was to do such a thing. Like, people were talking about the way he was acting in his interview. He just seemed he even seemed like a weasel. Right, everyone's, hey guys, a boy and teens were assaulted. Seen the files, very sick. Yep, that's true, Mermaid. Yeah. Right, he said, I saw Veal Possibly, Jeff's son, child, and talk about parties, child sacrifices, also assaulted, broke my heart, and how gross it is. Oh, Duke's the making fun of the Asian guy. Oh, Duke, it looks like you have a freedom of speech. It's all done in humor. You do what you need to do. Read it down stock market and doing amazing crime reporting down borders, safe forever. Oh, okay. Understood. Thank you for your thoughts. Yeah, Mermaid said, Rhea, I cried because you don't want to see assaulted, but you can see kissing, groping, and Veal's telling him what to do. Yeah, definitely. He told victims what to do, and he called them creepy nicknames, and especially his voice he has. I mean, that had to be like, he's like a stereotypical P-file. That's don't tempt you, Duke. Alright. Aaron Sonny read about Trump, and last week he said he didn't see anything. No, careful. I know it was sarcasm. I know what you think. And because sometimes I read things in monotone voice, but no, I know what you meant. As I know your views, so when you say it, I know it's sarcasm. But thanks for clarifying, though, because sometimes in chat it's hard to always tell sarcasm. That's true. Yeah, I'm just kind of skimming around. All right, Moki said there's stuff. Yeah, I know you well enough, Careful, known you for many years. Moki said there is stuff about Trump, Epstein trying to take down Trump. Yep, there's that too. Absolutely. There's that there. That is there as well. Okay, continuing.
Drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired. I don't
May
know.
I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did
Well,
not
can
ask a
respond,
question,
but
Mr.
he
ahead,
doesn't
you're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk
I
about
did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't
Madam
just
Attorney
ad-lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a
Trump.
question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. The gentleman from California is recognized. Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Ms. A.G. Bondi. I agree with you. Our top priority should be protecting Americans. In my past life in the California State Legislature, I did a lot of work on solving sex crimes, passing legislation to update our codes. And I found that the biggest challenge to solving sex crimes is reporting them. Victims have to have the guts to stand up to report those sex crimes. But it's not easy. It's the most unreported sex crime there is. Crime there is sex crimes. It's painful, humiliating. A lot of time the victims don't think anything's going to come out of their reporting these crimes. Then we have adults who as children were molested, boys and girls who will live in silence for the rest of their life. I believe the Epstein files are just one of many sex rings, sex crimes taking place in our society today. I hear 1,200 Epstein victims, some additional victims as young as 9 to 10 years old. The challenge I have today, what bothers me today about this hearing, Madam AG, is what's the message we're sending out there on Main Street? Shouldn't ask a question I don't know an answer to, but I'm going to ask the victims behind you right now. First, can you please stand up? And then, can you please raise your hand if you think after everything you've heard today, you feel that our AG, the feds, have your back? Do we have your back? Raise your hand if you're confident that we got your back. And that's the issue, Madam AG. We've got to make sure that victims stand up and report the crimes. Otherwise, we're going to be taking a step backwards. Today, AI, cyber, social media, the new realm for people to be hurt, attacked sexually. These are the areas I'd welcome the opportunity to work with you on. It's not your problem. It's not my problem. It's our problem. But to have redacted files that are not showing us the names of these predators is wrong. These are very powerful people. This was a very expensive business, and we don't know who they are. I would imagine they're very prominent Republicans, very Republican Democrats, and we are covering up for them. We got to know what's going on out there, Madam AG. It looks like you want to say something. I'm going to give the opportunity to address my statement.
I look forward to working with you on any crimes involving child sex predators, children, and also cyber crimes. That is a tremendous problem now throughout our country. AI, you are correct. AI is causing great problems online we're working on that though. AI is an incredible tool, but it also can be fraught with peril with victims of crime. I've experienced that with someone I know who we've been trying to help. I look forward, though, to working with you on that and all
Madam,
cyber crimes. Can I?
Please, go ahead.
And as I said before, to any victims, we ask them to come forward to our office, and we want to work with them. I have never not worked with a victim, and I believe I've actually spoken to several of the
Madam,
victims'
if I can reclaim my time, I only have a minute.
behind me.
If I can reclaim my time, I just think we start out by making sure those redactions are unredacted, those Epstein.
Yeah, Kervil said there was 300 plus gallons of sulfuric acid on his island, so I bet most of the bodies are unrecoverable. Yeah. I agree. Definitely. No, he said they really don't want to talk about him being a Mossad operative. Right. There's some things that they're not going to, talk about. It'll cause them It's almost like they're being silenced from saying things that they could say, even if it wasn't true. Different theories should be discussed. But yeah, definitely, I do agree that it's almost like, what's pulling the strings in the shadows, Smokey? Why they don't want them to say stuff like that? Absolutely, good point. My grandpa was here earlier in the chat mentioning that too.
Files to make sure that the public, according to the law, following the law, that those names in those files are made public. We have to make sure we tell those predators there is no place for them to hide, and if they commit the crime, they're going to fry for it. It starts with showing us the names of the perpetrators in the Epstein files.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So, if any man's name was redacted that should not have been, we will, of course, unredact it. If a victim's name was unredacted, please bring it to us and we will redact it. We were given 30 days to review and redact and unredact millions of pages of documents. Our
Madam,
error rate is very low,
the
but there are
victims are
always
right
going to
behind
be
you. We've
errors
got to convince
on
them
both sides.
that we're doing a
And
good
we're
job
doing everything
of
we can
protecting
to help
them.
the victims. We will
Thank
do
you,
everything
Mr.
we can.
Chair, I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5
May I
minutes.
respond very briefly to her statement?
Well, I think we can do that
Okay.
probably on
Next.
one of our members' time.
Okay, thank you. I don't want that to get away. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the
All right, so according to FBI reports information, this is all alleged, but we will explain about the Epstein connection with Mossad. So, a declassified FBI memo from 2020 cites a confidential human source who believed Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. The information claimed Epstein was a trained spy under supervision of former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, which that prime minister has been associated with these crimes with Epstein. Relationship with Barak. Barak visited Epstein's New York residence dozens of times between 2013 and 2017. New released emails include a 2018 message from Epstein to Barak, cryptically stating, "You must make it clear that I did not work for Mossad," with a smile. All right, intelligence networking documents suggest Epstein helped facilitate diplomatic economic deals with Israel globally. He reportedly co-founded the tech firm Carbine with Barak that's staffed by former Israeli intelligence operatives. This does not mean that all people in Israel are behind this or the Jews are bad, but definitely, like in our country, over in Israel there seems to be connections with Epstein and other countries like Saudi Arabia, etc., that they're also there's people in their government that were involved in these creepy crimes because it was a global operation. So yeah, anybody should be held accountable that was doing this, just like other countries that have been mentioned. This should be mentioned as well, and should be talked about. Alan Dershowitz connections. The FBI memo alleges Epstein's attorney Alan Dershowitz told federal prosecutors that Epstein belonged to both U.S. allied intelligence services, but he's not going to say specifically who the intelligence services are. The informant further claimed that Mossad would debrief Dershowitz about phone calls with Epstein. Now, of the official details, the Prime Minister Netanyahu has publicly rejected claims that Epstein worked for Israel, stating allegations are unfounded. Former PM Bennett also dismissed the theories categorically as totally false, but we could clearly see that there's some truth to it. And said most countries, Eastern Europe, you have the Prince Andrew, Prince Weasel in England. You had Saudi Arabia. You got people in Eastern Europe. There's in Norway, all over the world. So it's like I would say that it all should just come out. These elites that are in charge of these countries are like a clique that don't want the people to know what they're doing, because it's like they're this side and that side, they're all part of the same thing. They don't want people to have peace, and keeping the people divided is what they're trying to do. So, billionaire. So that is the theory about Epstein's connection with Assad, and also he was connected with other countries as well. So, let's see. Any analysts point Epstein elite circles. Right, so there we go. That is the theory of him with Assad. How's the Dow stock market help bring prices down for anyone in chat? Caraville, that for myself, it has not happened yet. The prices are still going up. Weasel got punished repeatedly. Norway elites have, etc., but nothing here. Right, exactly. Exactly. Alright, it'll come back in a moment. Let's see. Okay, here I am. I am returning. I'm here now. Okay. Okay, so I will say that, yes, inflation has not eased at this point yet. No, it has not. For anybody, even if the stocks went up, hopefully at some point in the long term, the inflation could go down, because I know during the coup, the plague that happened in 2020, lots of money was produced, and it did cause hyperinflation. Not hyperinflation necessarily, but very bad inflation. So that's something that has been occurred at this time. So yeah, so far has not fixed yet. Careful to answer your question. Nope, not at all. All right. Norway elites have stepped down, etc., but nothing here. And the Weasel Andrew has been punished. So yeah, we need to take care of the people that are doing things that are wrong. Everybody needs to be held accountable that did something wrong in this. Absolutely. Let's continue. Not yet. The gas is down a bit. My son okay. Next money will be telling us we should be happy Elon hits a trillionaire and stop complaining about everything else. Well, if they do say that, Curville, they would be completely out of touch with reality, because people do need to eat and live their lives, get their gas, because just like happened in Germany, there's hyperinflation that caused things to be so expensive that a loaf of bread costed $1 billion. It was nuts. So yeah, they need to be out of. They can make money. I think it's okay if people make money, but they need to not be out of touch with everybody else, and everybody should have an affordable wage, and they should try to, people can afford groceries, etc., because, and not be so into their own elite getting the most. Right, exactly. They want to distract us. They want to try to distract us with silly things and not focus on what we're doing. Right, exactly.
The DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name, and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victim's survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files. But he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr.
Chairman.
This isn't how this works.
Can I have my time back?
Mr. Chairman. The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from Kentucky.
All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that? It's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
Hello, Passion. It's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome to the stream. Carol said Macy has seen these unredacted. So he knows they eliminated. Okay. He is right. ID number employees should be the file who conducted the reaction. Yep. Good points. All right. Yeah, alien spaceship flying around some heated locations tonight. This guy is yelling. Yep. Yeah, lots of yelling going on. Yeah.
There was one redaction out of over 4,700, and we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get. You're a failed politician. You need to get on to watch the matter.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim time
when you don't. This is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way you want.
This goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
She didn't answer the question.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, could she answer the question?
Chairman, I was wondering,
The gentlelady's allowed, the Attorney General's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's questions, Republican, Democrat.
All right, I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right, this is an example. I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at them.
Without objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
A Passion says, "Oh, alien, I have side announcement. I found a new canine companion. Technically, found me. Felt like the right timing. Oh, that is awesome. Shout out to your new canine companion. That's always a great, amazing gift to get. An unexpected one. Perfect timing. Congrats."
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from AG Bondi to Kash Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because they're still redacting files that you...
Chairman, are we going to recess for votes?
Yes, we are.
I'm submitting for unanimous consent a document of 17 individuals who've resigned because of the Epstein files.
Without objection. The gentlelady from Vermont is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney General Bondi, according to your department, a child is sexually abused in the United States every 9 minutes, and the vast majority of survivors never get justice. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Epstein case has resonated so deeply with so many Americans. And the other reason, I think, is because it has revealed a 2-tiered system of justice. And the powerful are protected, and the survivors rarely get any accountability. And the Epstein files contain evidence of a multi-decade international criminal conspiracy involving some of the wealthiest and the most powerful people in the world. There's evidence of financial crimes, political corruption, sex trafficking, and of course, horrible sexual abuse. And I want to remind everybody, this isn't a game. These are real people, people who have suffered, who are sitting here with us today, and they deserve answers, and they deserve accountability. And I'm here to try to get some for them. Now, I've seen some of the unredacted Epstein files, and obviously, as you know, President Trump's name is all over them, but so are the names of other senior Trump officials: Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce; John Phelan, the Secretary of the Navy; and Stephen Feinberg, the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These men were appointed by President Trump to senior positions in his administration. All of them have clear and confirmed ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Attorney General Bondi, yes or no, has the Justice Department asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Epstein?
Excuse me. Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
I'm asking you, has the Justice Department specifically asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
He has addressed those ties himself.
Has the DOJ asked Secretary Phelan about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know whether he has addressed those or not.
Has the Deputy Secretary Feinberg talked to the Department of Justice about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Yes or no? Has the Department of Justice talked to Deputy Secretary Feinberg about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which are clearly spelled out in the files? It's a very simple question. It's not a trick question. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I'm stunned that you want to continue talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Epstein
Okay, I'm reclaiming my time. I'm asking you not a trick question, a simple question. Okay, so what is clear is we have evidence.
Do you know who Chris Malin is?
We have evidence that 3 senior officials within the Trump administration have ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And what I can conclude, I can conclude from what you are saying that you have not talked to them.
What does ties mean?
I think Americans would be shocked to learn that you are not interested in talking with these officials who have ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
What does
Across
ties
the
mean?
world,
Can you define that?
across the world,
Can you
prominent
define
men
ties?
who've been
Time
exposed
belongs to the
in the files have resigned their jobs in disgrace, and that's a good first start. And that same
Disgrace is
standard,
not saying the word
this
Chris
same
Malin.
standard should apply here. And Americans want accountability.
Who is Chris Malin?
Was the president
he?
aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask
Who was he?
questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
One second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Malin was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so
He
I'm
was
going to
shot,
conclude
and
that
she
the president, in
never
fact,
mentioned
did
him
know about his
in
ties
her
because he
district.
was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic. This
beautiful
is
state.
pathetic, Mr.
Committee will
Chair.
be in order.
I am not asking trick questions here.
You
The
got your
American
5
people
minutes.
have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell. By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. And we now know that Lutnick went to Epstein's Island in 2012. How was that not a deal breaker for the president? And why aren't you asking questions of the Commerce Secretary about what he saw when he was at the island, which he lied about not ever going to? Why are you not asking these questions? And I see that my time is almost expired, so I will say this. Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
May I have 20 seconds of his time?
That'd be up to the gentleman, but.
Absolutely, Madam
Thank you. Thank you. I was curious if you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that. Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once when he was
Weak sauce.
And
Weak sauce.
also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
from the
Jewish.
river
I
Epstein
just want to be
as
clear.
anti-Semitic.
Do you want to go there, Attorney
time
General?
belongs
Or
to
do
the
you
gen-
want to go there? Are
Time
you
belongs to the
serious?
gentleman
Talking
from
about
South
anti-Semitism
Carolina.
to a woman who
Lady
lost
will-
her grandfather in the Holocaust?
reclaim my time. I
Really?
reclaim my time.
Really?
Madam Attorney General, am I correct that under your leadership, the Department of Justice has prosecuted cases of non-citizen voting? So it's false, as some of my Democratic colleagues have claimed, that it doesn't happen.
Yes.
I ask that today because we're voting on the Save America Act today to enact common sense policies to ensure only American citizens vote in American elections and enact federal voter ID laws. But it's true, for example, that in just this month, a federal grand jury in Newark indicted 2 men with illegally voting in federal election and making false statements. Mohammed Muzammil and Mohammed Shakil were non-citizens at the time they registered to vote. This happens, it happens regularly, and you're prosecuting those crimes, correct?
Yes.
But does that prosecution of those criminals overturn their previously cast votes?
That's all pending.
But it does not overturn votes that they've cast, right? So passing the Save
no,
America
Congressman.
Act would help deal with that problem.
Yes, Congressman.
Second question. As Attorney General, you're in charge of the Executive Office of Immigration Review, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
The Biden-Mayorkas regime caused the immigration court case backlog to explode, correct?
Explode.
Does that sound about right that in September of 2020, 4 months before President Biden took office, there was a backlog of 1.5 million cases, but by the time President Biden left office, the backlog reached nearly 4.2 million cases?
It sounds about right, but I don't have the exact numbers.
It would be accurate to say that most individuals who file for asylum have a meritless or fraudulent claim?
Most. I don't have the numbers.
Oh, so does it sound correct that of the asylum cases adjudicated in FY 2023 under the Biden regime, that only 14% resulted in an asylum grant and only 12% in fiscal year 2024? Does that sound correct?
It sounds correct. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers.
Could you get that information to us to
Yes,
verify
absolutely.
that data?
I'll get all that information to you.
Under the Trump administration, immigration judges complete an average of 65,000 cases per month, the highest average completion rate in at least a decade. Does that sound correct?
That sounds correct.
Ms. Bondi, how many new cases under EOIR received in fiscal year 2025 have you all had? And of those, what percentage have been granted asylum? Do you know?
I can try to get you those numbers. I thought I had those.
That'd be great, because my question is whether President Trump's decision to pause asylum in the wake of the shooting of a National Guardsman by an Afghani here in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital, helped to stop the backlog in your office. Does that sound correct?
Yes, Congressman.
My point being that the leadership of this administration is ending the backlog, reducing the backlog, making sure that we don't have fraudulent asylum claims clogging it, and keeping Americans safe. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So a couple other quick questions on another important topic that has been raised by colleagues on both sides of the aisle with respect to the Epstein case. A few questions. One, Jeffrey Epstein was charged in July 2019 for sex trafficking under the Trump administration in his first term. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
And that Ghislaine Maxwell was charged in 2020 also under the Trump administration, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So it is safe to say that the administration led on that issue and that there was silence in the previous administration. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman. Almost complete silence from everyone who's been trying to still talk about Epstein. They didn't say a word under the Biden administration. Nothing.
And I want to make one other point and then another question, though, that is important. I want to make one observation, that is that we've heard the information today, which is troubling, that Jane Doe's, that victims' information was made public and was unredacted in the files that were released on Friday. So my question is, some of us had argued when we were dealing with the discharge petition in Congress that when Congress inserted itself into the process, that we needed to be very careful to ensure that we were protecting victims. So a question that is both, I just want to make that clear that some of us were fighting for that here and we didn't get a chance to amend it or change it. So that was concerning. But a question a little more pointed, I have to say, is why, though, were the victims' names released that shouldn't have been? That there were names in the files, that these Jane Does, that their names shouldn't have been made public, when there were some accusers whose names were redacted? That's question one. Mm-hmm. And question two was that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for trafficking minors. Rightly so, and you properly said here at this table, you hope she dies in jail. Well, I want to know, will anyone besides her or Epstein, which I congratulate President Trump's previous administration and this Department of Justice for continuing all of that, but that they were indicted, but will anyone else be indicted and prosecuted under this, given the information that's in front of us? So 2 questions.
Thank you for letting me answer that. They didn't want to hear my answer on the other side. Yes, given the tight time frame of 30 days, I believe we got everything released within a little over 60 days. I'm talking as fast as I can. My time is up. We did the best we could immediately. If everyone's been coming to view the documents, if someone's name...
From everyone to today's hearing on oversight of the Department of Justice.
To freely protest. If Christians want to protest, in 2025, we saw the lowest murder rate in 125 years.
Speaker Johnson sends Congress home a day early before break. They sent the Deputy Attorney General to meet with Maxwell. She says something favorable about the president. Miraculously, she gets transferred to a minimum security facility. No one can explain why. Miraculously, the leaks to the Wall Street Journal stop. We come back from break. We have the Massey discharge petition. Republicans drop a rule, a non-binding resolution trying to kill the Massey discharge petition. The White House says passing the Massey discharge petition is a hostile act. Trying to stop the necessary 218 signatures, according to Republican members that signed it, the White House brought them into the Situation Room, you know, the place where the president goes for time of war, promising things like appropriations or maybe even to primary them. People in the room say you were there. It didn't work. We get the 218 signatures. We eventually passed the Massey petition. You guys didn't release the files. You were forced by Congress, every member of the House except one, and the entire Senate. The reason the president signed it is because it was a veto-proof majority. We can't agree on anything, and yet the entire House but one member and the whole Senate forced the administration to release the files. Kash Patel under oath said to Senator Kennedy, the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. We know now that's not true. According to documents, Epstein had a worldwide sex trafficking ring. Girls from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Paris, modeling agencies sending him girls. He even had a relationship with a summer camp where he groomed girls at a picnic table. Ghislaine Maxwell says 29 Epstein associates cut secret DOJ deals. Turns out there is a list. 6 names readily available if you unredact them. Co-conspirators named, but we got them when you unredact them. Maxwell recently tells a House Oversight Committee that she wants clemency to release more names. Kash Patel under oath said Trump's name appears less than 100 times in the files. We now know that's not true. Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the book about God. Okay, by the way, this is the Trump Bible. Move over, King James. Trump's name also appears more times in the Epstein file than Harry Potter's name appears in the 7 books about Harry Potter. Lutnick says that in 2008, he went to Epstein's home, says he had a massage table in the living room, that Epstein said he got one every day, that it was the right type of massage. He and his wife decide to leave and say they'll never be in a room with him again. Howard then says, I'm sure the Epstein stuff is all on video. He was the greatest blackmailer of all time. Well, how would Howard know that? But now the files are public, and in 2012, we find out that he and his family are on Epstein Island after Epstein pled guilty to state charges. I'm from Florida. I take my family to Disney World, not to Epstein Island. There are documents in the files that dispute the president's claim that he kicked Epstein out of his club. Allegedly, the president said that he asked Epstein to leave. Supported now, that's disputed, though, statements from the manager of the club. Now, Madam Attorney General, I have like 25 seconds left. So because I'm curious, and I'd like to see, flip to the Jared Moskowitz section of the binder. I'm interested to see what staff provided on the oppo on me, and because we're in the Olympics, I'm going to give it a grade. I just want to see how good it is. So give me your best one.
So first of all, nothing is funny about mocking the Bible and holding up a Trump Bible. That's what you did. You made a joke, and I find offense to that. That's all I have to say.
I want it from the burn book.
Shame.
I want it from the burn book, which is the best one. What you got?
Has expired. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to clear something up that was said earlier and is frequently said and is manifestly not true. And that is the supposed small number of crimes committed by immigrants or illegal immigrants in the country. That has been based on a poorly done study by the Cato Institute, and I believe the Cato Institute itself has even updated that study. The reason that we know that study is not true is that those statistics are not out there. For whatever reason, when somebody is arrested, even for very serious crimes, we do not have on the paperwork whether that person is a legal or illegal immigrant. Okay? If I go to one of my local sheriffs in Wisconsin and ask them how many illegal immigrants in your jail, they will say, I have no idea. We don't keep track of that. When I tour the federal prison right outside of my district, and I ask them, in this federal prison, how many of your inmates are illegal aliens, they will tell me, we have no idea. We don't keep track of that. So whenever you hear a Democrat or anybody, or a pundit, say that, oh, there's so few illegals committing crimes, it is based on nothing, because those statistics are not available anywhere. What I would offer in the next round of appropriation bills, if one of my Democrat colleagues wants to help me out, perhaps in appropriations we can get funds to add to all the paperwork whenever anybody is convicted of crime as to whether or not they are citizen or non-citizen. And then we will have the statistics. But otherwise, whenever you hear somebody say on MSNBC or wherever, oh, so few crimes are committed by illegal immigrants, they don't know what they're talking about because nobody has those numbers. Okay, there's the first thing. Now, the next thing I want to point out, we have had what I think is an unprecedented situation in Minnesota in which they are not assisting ICE in dealing with crimes that are going on up there. In other words, ICE is left to its own devices. When I talk to my local sheriffs, they tell me that whenever a federal agency is engaged in work in Wisconsin, they always make themselves available in case that federal agency needs assistance. This could be something like ICE under DI. It could be drug enforcement. It could be ATF. It could be FBI. It could be Secret Service. It could be the U.S. Marshal. Nobody that I have been able to find, any sheriff in the state of Wisconsin, is aware of any circumstances in which they did not make themselves available to federal law enforcement, either if they need somebody extra to do surveillance, to just park a marked car outside the area, to assist in apprehension of a criminal, if they need assistance with an additional SWAT team, if they need to transport somebody. Local law enforcement is always there. Now, you are not in charge of ICE, but you're in charge of several other agencies. Have you ever heard of anything like what's going on in Minnesota, where the governor or the local mayor refuses to give assistance to federal law enforcement?
I have in Portland and some other cities where they weren't cooperating. But as I said, I did spend 4 days in Minnesota. And I believe many of the local law enforcement wish they could work with us to make their city safe.
Okay, now we'll switch to something else. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for doing this today. You're obviously very bright, obviously very confident, and something I love. You tolerate fools gladly, so I appreciate that trait. You suffer fools gladly. In hearings like this, we often focus on new initiatives undertaken by the department. Today, I'd like to give you an opportunity to discuss actions implemented under the Biden administration's Department of Justice, such as the Foreign Influence Task Force that you have since terminated. And, it's always rare to see anything in the government terminated. But could you elaborate on those decisions and highlight the accomplishments of your tenure at Justice?
Thank you for asking that. We are out of time, but may I answer, Chairman?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. The Biden administration weaponized the Foreign Corruption Practices Act. And on February 10th, President Trump issued an executive order pausing that for a DOJ review. Under Deputy Attorney General Blanche's supervision, a comprehensive review was led, and the department issued new guidelines protecting all Americans and protecting against the weaponization that happened under the Biden administration.
Time the gentleman has expired. Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from New York recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. So, Ms. Bondi, will you commit right here to immediately providing those two documents in unredacted form to members of Congress? Not a complicated question.
Well, I guess it is for you because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Okay, they're not privileged, but we will discuss that later. I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted, and it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege, there is no attorney-client privilege, and I see you're checking with your staff, and I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you
were
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
And let me
to
stop for a
protect-
minute.
I'm talking. I'm
If they're
talking.
not privileged,
Quiet.
don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you
privileged,
stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr.
If they're
Goldstein.
not
Even though
privileged,
you used your
if we review
improper
them and they're not-
redactions
you'll like my answer.
to
If we
continue
review
to
them and they're not
protect
privileged,
Donald
Time belongs to
we
the
will
member.
be happy to release them.
We'll
after
stop the
review.
clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
Even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, you did the exact opposite thing with the survivors and victims of this scheme. So their identification information was really the only thing required to be redacted, and it was not. And it's clear this was not a mistake. This was not by accident. This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. One is redacted. 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week...
How will you tell me that's intentional?
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche...
You can't go off script.
...said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you, who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses
Gentlemen, this
to
time
talk
has expired.
to, and I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott.
May I have a moment, Congressman?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Here we go. Here's the photograph. This is why he wanted to repeat everything that had been said previously on Epstein. This is his state, New York. You probably don't even know who this is. Wahid Mohammed from Afghanistan.
Yes, because I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Convicted of assault. Wow, he represents New York. Wow, yet he doesn't care about the illegal aliens convicted of crimes. Assault and homicide. No longer a prosecutor, so he doesn't care about his constituents. Here we go. Arson, El Salvador, Miguel Palacios. Fermin Flores Ramales, Mexico, rape.
Let's talk about the 70% of immigrants who are detained without a criminal conviction or arrest.
Stop the clock. Stop the clock. Time belongs to Congressman Knott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Attorney General, I want to be sure that the American people understand exactly what we're referring to when we talk about sanctuary policies. They are often framed in sort of innocuous terms like, we refuse to take part in immigration law. And when you add up all of the population represented by these cowardly politicians in sanctuary jurisdictions, whether it's a county, city, or state, sanctuary jurisdictions account for roughly 40% of the United States. Now, in reality, it's much more than just a passive exercise. Is that not correct?
Yes.
It's unbelievably active. And in terms of breaking down these terms, I want to break it down as clearly a term as I can. What is a federal detainer for the American people? Please describe it.
A federal detainer is when someone is held in federal custody.
Yes. And when a federal detainer is issued to local law enforcement, they are obviously in local or state custody, correct?
Yes.
And federal officers take note of that apprehension and they say, we want to come and apprehend him or her to deport them. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And in these sanctuary jurisdictions, whether it's California, Illinois, New York, or other places, even in North Carolina, there are sanctuary jurisdictions. That federal detainer often prompts not any cooperation, not any assistance, but a release onto the streets. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, and Congressman, a federal detainer is federal law.
Yes.
That people must abide by, yet these jurisdictions, many of these jurisdictions are not abiding by that.
And we hear a lot of talk from the other side about victims of violent crimes, sex crimes, murders, whatever it may be. But I want to be very clear. Illegal aliens who have been arrested for committing some of the most heinous crimes, they have been released by sanctuary cities, by sanctuary states, rather than being turned over to the federal government for deportation. Isn't that correct?
It is, and it's sad for all Americans that any jurisdiction would do that. These are some of the most violent criminals I think we've all seen.
Yes. And despite their best efforts to obstruct you and the president in making us all safer, I just want to go through a quick list again of the accomplishments that you have been in part responsible for achieving. True or false, the country now has the lowest murder rate in 125 years.
Yes.
True or false, 62 major cities are now reporting rapid decline in murder rates.
Yes.
True or false, robberies are down nearly 20% over the last year.
Yes.
True or false, violent crime is down almost 15% over the past year.
Yes.
True or false, right here in Washington, D.C., violent crime is down almost 30% since President Trump took office.
Yes, and the number may be even better than that, but yes.
Good.
Yes.
True or false, the DEA has seized over 200,000 kilograms of cocaine since President Trump took office.
I believe so, and 78,500 kilos of meth and more than 260,000 kilos of cocaine.
Unbelievable.
That's lives saved every day for all of us, for
Absolutely.
families, for children.
And then true or false, the Department of Justice under your leadership has a 92% success rate at the Supreme Court.
I believe so.
Or ballpark.
Ballpark.
And then true or false, this administration is attacking the waste, fraud, and abuse that we have seen in places like Minnesota that is removing billions of hard-earned tax dollars from this country.
Absolutely, and President Trump is committed to doing that in every city in this country.
And Madam Attorney General, just to be very brief here, I want to be sure that you know that many on this committee made very serious efforts to try to amend the Epstein petition to give you the resources and the time to protect victims, to go through and to have the necessary runway to thoroughly go through that file. Unfortunately, those requests were met with refusal, and we were unable to make the necessary amendments. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
The good gentleman yields back. We turn to the good lady from California, Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Attorney General, for being here today. I want to talk with you about an issue on which there is broad bipartisan agreement: the importance of ensuring trust between the American public and those government officials who wield powerful law enforcement responsibilities. So, Attorney General, would you agree that it is important for law enforcement leaders to be honest?
Of course, as well as members of Congress.
Thank you. And would you include yourself as a law enforcement leader?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, President Trump has also, he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, and not only is he keeping this country safe, he is keeping this world safe.
It's a simple question, which you didn't answer.
Of course I do. He is the commander-in-chief.
Last June, Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog were brutally murdered in their home. And your USA's office in Minnesota investigated this crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injure, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the copy right here. I read through it. Yet a few weeks ago, President Trump suggested publicly that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was behind these murders, posting on his Truth Social account a video raising this conspiracy theory. And it wasn't true. And you know it wasn't true, or else you would not have brought an indictment against the subject. Do you know what else Trump has said? He has said he has cut gas prices by 1,400%. False. That he won the 2020 election.
Actually,
False.
gas is down to $1.99 a gallon, thanks to
that
President
he didn't
Trump.
know Epstein.
Maybe $5 in California.
It's my time, Mr. Chair. That he sent water to LA during the wildfires. False. That Governor Westmore of Maryland called him the greatest president of his lifetime. False. So many tales, too many to keep up. But I want to go back to what he said about Tim Walz. Do you agree that President Trump undermined public trust in law enforcement by suggesting that Governor Walz was involved in the Hortman murders?
I am not familiar with that statement.
Well, that is a disappointing response, and it is also why your office and Donald Trump have zero credibility, because I know, and you know, it was a right-wing extremist who murdered the Hortmans. And you and the president are being dishonest with the American people. Last fall, after the horrific shooting of Charlie Kirk, President Trump was asked if there were extremists on both the left and the right. And his exact words were, "I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy." Do you agree with this statement? You're taking too long, Madam Attorney General. But you know the answer, because your own department has addressed the question. In 24, the DOJ's research arm issued a report on domestic terrorism, stating that the far number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violence extremists. The DOJ published the report, and after the president made those comments, the DOJ took the report down. And I sent you a letter asking you a simple question. Why did the Justice Department remove the data that shows right-wing extremists have killed more innocent people than left-wing extremists?
Did you refer to immigration enforcement as domestic terrorism?
You should answer my question.
Yes.
You're on my time, but you won't. And what I am asking you to do is put the report back, restore the data. Stop scrubbing important data from your website. Stop taking down reports that you know the American people need to know about. There are violent, dangerous people out here with real threats, and the dishonesty from your agency comes from the covering up of these threats that could hurt American people and put our lives at rest. Do better. And with that, I yield back, Mr.
The lady yields back. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
May I have one moment?
You may.
Her district includes Culver City, and she's not talking about any crime in her districts, nothing about helping crime in her district. She's not even worth getting into the details.
Well, thank you, Madam Attorney General, and we are grateful to have you here today. And let me just say that you've shown great perseverance today, and I think you're coming to the last lap here of those of us that are left. But I applaud your strength, and I applaud your resolve. Madam Attorney General, as a pastor for over 37 years now, I take serious issue with any attempts by agitators to disrupt church services or activities at houses of worship. And I just want to take a moment to clarify some things. I realize you can't talk about pending cases per se, but I do want to ask some very general questions for clarification. Does the DOJ consider unauthorized entry into a house of worship to be protected activity under the First Amendment when undertaken by a member of the press?
Unauthorized with the intent of disrupting, yes.
Okay.
Even if it's a blogger like Don Lemon.
Correct. How does the DOJ distinguish between news gathering activity and expressive or protest conduct when a press defense is asserted?
Congressman, I met with the pastor of that church, and what happened there was horrific. Of course, the press is welcome, and I would hope all houses of worship, whether it's a synagogue, whether it's a church, any house of worship. However, what happened here is a pending case again, but within the four corners of the indictment, they were, quote, gearing up for a resistance. They entered a house of worship, and I think the video speaks for itself. What happened in there, what the video doesn't show, is there were approximately 400 parishioners in there on a Sunday morning. Families, grandparents with canes, children upstairs in Sunday school their parents were blocked from getting to them once this resistance took place, and they had named it Operation Pull-Up. It was heartbreaking for those families. They were terrified. I think they've all said that, and nothing like that should happen in this country, and under my watch, it won't.
Thank you. And just to clarify, accosting members of a congregation and creating a scene marked by intimidation and threat inside a house of worship would not be protected First Amendment activity, correct?
Absolutely not, and a grand jury has indicted individuals over that.
Thank you. One other question, just shifting a little bit. You know, my home state of North Carolina has been making national headlines at times, and particularly in the city of Charlotte. We've made pleas at times for our governor to get involved, bring in the National Guard. Our Fraternal Order of Police had pointed out that we were about 270 local cops below what we needed in order to adequately police the city. And yet the governor's declined to offer to partner with the federal government to bring in reinforcements to Charlotte. I want to give you just a few moments, really the balance of my time, to explain the impact that Memphis Safe Task Force has had on crime and safety in Memphis, because I know there was a place we saw that cooperation has tended to breed great results, and I would love to hear a little more about that.
Thank you. And I have numbers for you too. Well, and we're all right here in DC, we're all living right here in DC, and I think we've seen the remarkable impact that it has working with members of the Democrat Party on this, with law enforcement, with the mayor, with the police chief, doing everything we can to make DC safe. As of February 9th, there were nearly 10,000 arrests. This is DC. 1,000 illegal guns seized since the operation began, with carjackings down 81% from this time last year, and violent crime down 42%. DC is safer because of it. We know we had a National Guardsman shot, and we had a beautiful young woman killed. I went to her funeral, and I keep in touch with the National Guardsman who was shot, his parents. He's doing great. He's a miracle. Please continue to pray for him. I know my time is up, but same results I spoke about earlier in Memphis, and we're still working on that with the help of Make Memphis Safe Again.
Well, again, I think it just draws an incredible contrast between what we've seen happening in Minneapolis versus what we've seen happen in D.C., what we saw happen in Memphis, and what I would love to see in some ways, if we could ever get our governor to work with us in North Carolina, to happen in Charlotte. But with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. I seek unanimous consent to introduce into the record the research that Representative Kamlager-Dove and I referenced concerning the threat of right-wing domestic terrorism, which the Department of Justice scrubbed from its website in September.
Without objection, the gentlelady from
Thank
Texas
you.
is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And to be clear, I'm not going to ask any questions of this witness because this witness has revealed that she has no intentions of answering questions. But instead, I'm going to ask some very basic questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer right or wrong, raping children.
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens.
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States.
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions. instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history, an attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try Congresswoman Crockett to ask any questions because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted. So what we talking about? Convict some of these perpetrators that rape these women that are sitting behind you that you refuse to even acknowledge they are here.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds back to make up for the yelling? Thank you. General, did you have anything further to say?
Texas, convicted of homicide, Cecil Joseph from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape, Khalid Khan from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
Thank you, General, and thank you for being here. And this has been quite a spectacle to observe today. I think it's sad. I ran for Congress because I thought we had serious problems in this country we wanted to try to fix together, and this performance today, not yours, General, but some of my colleagues, has not shored up my confidence that we are up to the task. You and I served together for 8 years when you were Attorney General of Florida and I in Kansas. You served professionally. I'm glad to be able to serve with you in these new roles, and I'm glad you're there, both generally and today. Part of the reason I ran for Congress is because in my former role, I saw in the real world, in my state, the consequences of failed U.S. immigration and border security policy. And I'll spare you the lengthy recitation, but let me give you the short version. I sit here and think about a fellow who was running, I believe it was drugs for the cartels, and shot a police officer in Oklahoma, drove across the border into my state, kidnapped an old man, and then invaded a house and shot at cops before we ultimately neutralized him. He's in prison now for, I believe, the rest of his life. I'm thinking about a drunk driver who was in our country illegally, never should have been here, and one night killed a young deputy on southern Johnson County, Kansas, who was making a traffic stop on another individual. Drunk driver ran into him, never should have been here, shouldn't have happened. Thinking about a guy who was deported repeatedly, came back and ultimately murdered, I believe it was 4 people in Kansas City, Kansas, and then fled to Missouri and killed a 5th guy. He died in prison. I'm thinking about a guy we prosecuted who wasn't supposed to be in this country, who raped a child in a little rural county up north on the Nebraska border, and we sent him to prison for, I believe, the rest of his life. Thinking about a guy who wasn't supposed to be here at all, who murdered, I think it was his wife or his domestic partner in an act of domestic violence in northwest Kansas. Thinking about another guy who was here and joined up with some folks who were citizens and committed a crime spree and then thought he might get caught, so he killed one of his accomplices. And we sent him to prison for the rest of his life. And that's just the ones I'm thinking about sitting right here. And you know what's common in all of those? They all committed violations of my state's law. They were caught by my state's law enforcement. They were prosecuted by my state's prosecutors. They are serving time in my state's prisons. And if and when they ever get out, the United States has said they need to be sent out of this country because of what they did. There's a list. You're holding up photos, General. There's a list on the Department of Homeland Security's website. It has about 280, 290 people like that in my state of Kansas. And you know what? We haven't made headlines like Minneapolis. We haven't made headlines like Memphis. We haven't made headlines like Los Angeles. And you know why? Because our cops are professionals and our politicians, by law, allow them to do their job and to work with federal agents for safe handoffs in order to do everything that's supposed to be done, justice under state law, and the justice of deportation on the back end. So I want to do something that's been rare here today, General. I want to ask you about public policy. Donald Trump won't be president forever. I would like to lock in some of these gains we have made in public safety. Should we be exploring the idea, for example, of beefing up 287G partnerships, or maybe replicating that so that state prosecutors can work more closely with federal prosecutors to get deportation orders as well as state convictions?
Absolutely.
In terms of sanctuary jurisdictions, when a sanctuary jurisdiction says as a matter of politics, go pound sand to the feds, we won't honor your detainer, so they release those people I'm talking about into their communities. And those people commit another crime of property or violence against citizens. Should those citizens have some type of civil redress against the jurisdiction that as a matter of public policy turned those people loose who created the new victims?
Yeah, and Congressman, it's risking the lives of all of the citizens of that jurisdiction.
And you've been sued a lot, or the administration has, by folks who don't like your policies.
Hundreds of times.
You've won many of those.
Yes.
Isn't it the case that the law says under Rule 65 that when you win those and there's a wrongfully entered injunction that there's supposed to be a monetary remedy for that, so there's a cost?
Yes.
And didn't the president direct you and other agency heads to start seeking bonds in those cases?
Yes.
And should we beef up the law in that area by codifying that requirement going forward?
I would love to discuss that with you.
Thank you, General. Thank you for being here.
Gentleman yields back. Well done. Some of the questions he raised, we plan on taking up in a markup in a couple weeks on the whole sanctuary jurisdiction issue. With that, I recognize the gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, for taking the time to speak with us. We certainly really appreciate it. I've got a series of questions for you that we can get through pretty quickly, I think. Can you tell me, is it true that the Biden-Harris DOJ raided President Trump's home?
They did.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ allow Jack Smith to spy on over a dozen Republican members of Congress?
Absolutely.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ seize the phone of a sitting Republican congressman?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ and Jack Smith pay at least $20,000 to confidential human sources to provide information on President Trump?
At least.
At least. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ and FBI fail to apprehend the suspect who placed pipe bombs near the Capitol ahead of January 6th?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ target parents as domestic terrorists?
Absolutely.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ target pro-life Catholics, going so far as to interview a priest and a choir director?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ send FBI SWAT teams to arrest pro-life advocates with no criminal histories?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ use the FACE Act to target pro-life advocates while it allowed anti-life agitators to vandalize, destroy, and firebomb pregnancy resource centers and churches?
Multiple times, I believe.
Multiple times. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ ever determine who leaked the Dobbs decision?
I can't discuss that. No, under Biden-Harris.
Got it.
No.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ and FBI target whistleblowers for revealing waste, fraud, and abuse within the department to Congress?
Not to my knowledge.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ refuse to say whether it coordinated with Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, and Letitia James in their lawfare against President Trump?
They refused.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ slow-walk the criminal investigation and prosecution of Hunter Biden?
That's an understatement, in my opinion.
Yep. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ determine who brought cocaine into the Biden White House?
They did not.
They did not. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ cover up the extent?
As far as we know, they did not.
Right, that's right. Did the Biden-Harris DOJ cover up the extent of the Russia collusion hoax?
Absolutely, in my opinion. Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ, seek leniency from a federal court for an IRS contractor who leaked sensitive tax information on over 7,600 Americans, including President Trump?
Yes.
Did the Biden-Harris DOJ sue Texas because the state wanted to secure its own southern border?
Yes.
And finally, did the Biden-Harris DOJ attack SpaceX for hiring too many Americans?
I believe they did.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and I appreciate that a lot of this is being cleaned up under your leadership. So thank you for returning the DOJ back to its core focus, which is on the rule of law. And I think that we see the results of that. I've got a few more similar questions for you. How have, over the past year since President Trump has been in office, how have murders trended in the United States?
Since President Trump has been in office, the murder rate has dropped to a historic 20% drop in the national murder rate, lowest since 1900. 20%
drop in 1 year. That's incredible, isn't it?
And that's thanks to the incredible men and women of law enforcement, FBI, DEA, ATF, everyone working together to solve violent crime, along with our sheriffs, our local law enforcement, working as a team throughout this country, and our great state and federal prosecutors.
Yep. And how have robberies trended? Have they gone, even if they've just gone up or down?
Robberies, all violent crime, all violent crime has decreased, as well as robberies.
So murders, violent crime, the country is more safe now, it's fair to say, would you agree, than it was a year and a half ago under Joe Biden?
Absolutely, and Director Patel is working tirelessly to catch those, I'm sure you've been seeing, on the most wanted list. Mm-hmm. He and Deputy Director Bongino from day one said, we're going to get the most wanted list. And that's what's been happening, working hand in hand with all of our agencies.
Yep. And I want to thank you for that. Thank you for the work you've been doing to refocus the DOJ again on doing your core job. We're very happy with it, and I'll yield the remainder of my time to the chairman.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. I would just say, earlier one of the Democrats said that they said, who are you, who you are? And I think you're the Attorney General who I think on the first day disbanded the FIDF, first day on the job, rescinded the memo that required the spying on parents that Mr. Garland had issued, and stood up the weaponization working group. I think you did that all on day one. Not to mention, you're the first Justice Department that's put in place, as we've talked about earlier, this Deputy Attorney General for combating fraud. So we appreciate that, and of course, all the things that Mr. Gill pointed out with the crime stats that have went down. So our last question of the day, but not the least, is the gentleman, I'm sorry, we're going to have two more. We got Mr. Onder and then Mr. Baumgartner. So Mr. Baumgartner, well, let's go that way since you're here. You're ready to go. Mr. Baumgartner, and then we'll come back to Mr. Onder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi. You know, being a freshman on this committee, you always get a bit surprised, I guess, even 1 year into my term here, how theatrical days like this can be. But I think you've performed well today and answered the questions well today, and that's a credit to you and appreciated by the American people. You know, the Epstein issue is certainly important and is important for the victims. I think both I and the American people have a little bit of trouble taking the Democrats super seriously on this issue when they have been so uncurious about President Clinton's relations with Jeffrey Epstein. And even myself, I had no idea that there was actually a sitting Democrat congresswoman who had taken substantial campaign donations for Mr. Epstein, only when that came to light on the floor with the potential resolution. And you would think there would be more outrage on those types of things if they were going to be taken credible. But we do know the performance value of what goes on in this committee. I want to talk about the big things that Department of Justice is doing. And when I look at the dramatic decrease in crime in this country in the last year since the Trump administration has come, you see the board behind me. Violent crime plummets across major U.S. cities. And I guess so my first question would be, and when it comes to the big stuff, how are you guys getting this stuff so right? What contributes from your perspective to this dramatic decrease in crime in major U.S. cities under the Trump administration?
When I first took office, I met with all of our agencies. And the one thing that stuck with me, that one of the heads of the department said to me, one of the law enforcement department heads, President Trump has taken the handcuffs off us so we can keep the people of America safe. And that's what he's done. He has given our law enforcement officers the tools that they need and the backing that they need, the support that they need to combat violent crime and all crime throughout this country. And, you know, I'd be remiss, we've talked about the FBI, we've talked about DEA a bit, but can I please brag about ATF? Rob Cicada and Dan Driscoll, of course, who has been our acting head of ATF, have done a remarkable job stopping guns from flowing into Mexico, not harassing gun owners. 26,965 violent crime cases have been initiated, including more than 4,300 firearms trafficking cases. More than 1,200 of those are tied to gun trafficking in Mexico. I talk to them almost daily.
Thank you.
And they're working so hard.
Well, thank you, Attorney General. Again, you know, I look back at this last year, and we've had this historic tax cut. Yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, the National Cancer Foundation ran full-page ads thanking Congress, the administration, for doing more for cancer research than has ever been done before. I was just meeting with Habitat for Humanity out in the hallway, and they came and thanked us for doing more than's ever been done for Habitat for Humanity. So there's been so many accomplishments, but I really think this crime is the biggest deal of all. But I do have some concerns on this issue, and those also are respect to how we keep people safe with sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. And I remind everyone, and as I'm sure you know, Madam Attorney General, that when we had the terrible terrorist attacks of 9/11, the number one recommendation of the 9/11 Commission was to reduce barriers between all levels of law enforcement. They specifically pointed to things like fusion centers, Joint Terrorism Task Force, and getting local law enforcement and federal law enforcement to work together and communicate on a regular basis. And I would just like your perspective, because we have a more complex global threat than any time since World War II. We still have Islamic terrorism. We have spies from China, Iran, Russia, all these things. And what does sanctuary cities and states do for communication law enforcement? How does it make us less safe?
Sanctuary cities and states are attempting to prevent communication among all the law enforcement agencies. And of course, that's keeping all of America less safe, especially when the violent criminals are fleeing to those jurisdictions because they believe they're protected. But with all of our joint task forces, I see it every day, Congressman, how well, despite what these liberals are trying to do, Donald Trump's administration is working tirelessly to protect all of Americans, and all of our agencies working hand in hand to keep America
Well,
safe.
you guys are getting the big stuff right. You look at that decrease in crime across the country, you ought to take a victory lap. Well done.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here on this long day. And I want to thank you most of all for your leadership in your whole career defending victims. And now I want to take a moment to talk about you protecting victims from a different kind of child abuse, that medicalized child abuse that goes under the banner of gender-affirming care, that far too many of my Democrat colleagues enthusiastically support and unapologetically support. Shortly after returning to office, President Trump signed an executive order directing HHS to review the clinical evidence and determine whether sex-rejecting interventions caused more harm than good. HHS reached the same conclusion that the UK and Finland and Sweden reached, that the risks are serious and that imposing this so-called care on minors was not appropriate. This executive order also directed you as Attorney General to, quote, work to draft, propose, and promote legislation to enact a private right of action for children and the parents of children whose healthy body parts have been damaged by medical professionals practicing chemical and surgical mutilation, which should include a lengthy statute of limitations. Last September, you transmitted that bill to Congress. It has been my honor to introduce that bill as the Chloe Cole Act. We named the bill after Chloe Cole, who sat where you're sitting just a few years ago on her 19th birthday. During a hearing chaired by now Speaker Mike Johnson, I'd like to play a clip of her testimony that day to remind us of our story.
Onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. This caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest. And the skin grafts that they took of my nipples, are weeping fluid today. And they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said.
Chloe testified that day that what she needed was mental health therapy, but she never received it. And she was not suicidal until after they did these horrible things to her. She pleaded with Congress to act so that future children would not suffer what she did. Last week was a major turning point in for these medical malpractice claims when a detransitioner was the first to successfully hold doctors liable with a $2 million settlement for what they did to that poor girl. Just days later, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons announced that they would no longer do transgender surgeries on minors, and the AMA followed suit. This proves that if the bill your DOJ drafted were passed into law, these barbaric practices would end immediately, because all victims would be able to hold those who harm them accountable. Could you share with us a little bit about your work in advocating for victims like Chloe and what a private right of action would mean for victims like her and their families?
Yes, and first, Congressman, thank you for championing this bill. And also to Chloe, what a brave young woman to come before this body.
Yes.
And
at age 19.
At age 19, and talk about what happened to her. It's not about just giving relief to children who have been harmed. It allows victims whose healthy body parts have been damaged to seek relief and obtain relief. And thanks to you, and we are proud to work hand in hand with you on this issue. And I think it's pretty sad none of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle even brought that up. But I hope they support this to protect all children throughout this country.
Well, General Bondi, thank you so much to you, to your department, to President Trump. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
I've just saved some UC requests for the end, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you kindly. Record low crime during the Biden-Harris administration. Crime down in every category in 2024 under Biden. FBI report says Trump takes credit for violent crime drop where rates were already falling. From NPR, Trump administration targets ATF with plans to cut jobs and ease gun restrictions. And then a few oldies but goodies, I've introduced these before about the claim that we didn't have anything to say about Epstein before the Trump administration. Raskin joins call for Attorney General to reopen Epstein case and publicly release Acosta misconduct investigation in documents March 1, 2019. Oversight Committee plans hearing with Acosta on plea deal with Epstein, July 10, 2019. And finally, 68 House members call for resignation of Labor Secretary Acosta, July 10, 2019.
Without objection, Attorney General Bondi, thank you for your service to the country. And thank you for being here for a long day. We appreciate your willingness to come and answer our questions and the great job you're doing for our country. And I got one thing I got to say. This concludes today's hearing. We thank our witness for appearing before the committee. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witness or additional materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Okay, chat, and that is the Bondi facing off against the... Oh, yeah. Understanding of U.S. politics. Okay. Thank you, Passion. And by the way, yeah, so that was Bondi's, I call it a deposition. Okay, thank you, Passion, for the diagram. I will go review it later. Thank you. I'm going to talk about something about a constellation, because I said something about astronomy, but so I'll do what the title says. And then after that, we'll be done. And I want to say, although not ending it just yet, I want to say thank you all for saying your different opinions about the Epstein and other political matters. Chat handled it extremely well and mature and professionally. Everyone did very well. It's nice seeing different opinions about things. All right. Now, I've been talking a lot about Orion's Belt lately because of the different supernatural links it may have. It's one of the ones that are my favorites. Something I found out recently is that it's a cluster, not really a cluster, but it's a combination of different stars that from our planet looks like 3 different stars aligned, but they're really not. But it looks like that from where we are. And it's called an asterism, which is a recognizable part of the star that is in one of 88 official constellations. The big 3, the belt is made of blue supergiants, the Al-Nitak, the Al-Ni'alam, and the Mintaka. So those are 3 different ones. A tricky alignment. They look close together from Earth, but they are actually light years apart in depth. For example, the Analium, maybe pronouncing some of these not 100%, by the way, is roughly 2,000 light years away, while the Alani Tak are much closer. Both of that one and the Mintaka are roughly 700 to 1,200 light years away. While they both look like 3 lone points of light, the 2 are actually multiple star systems. The Mintaka system is 5 stars observing each other. So something that is cool is that there are different stars that are like observing each other. When it looks like 3, there are really a bunch of them combined together. That's why I think it's fascinating from the planet that you're able to see these different constellations that other places, they're not really what it looks like. Passion says, oh, it's made up of star systems, not individual stars. Tiny galaxies in my imagination. Right. The real cluster's nearby. If you look just below the belt, you'll see a fuzzy star that is Orion's nebula M42, which does contain a true star called the Trapezium cluster, where thousands of new stars are being born. Okay, and the next part. Oh, it's going to be, oh yeah, the Egyptian, the star that turns red by the Sphinx. One thing that I'm glad is I'm not in North Korea. That is something, a place I'm glad that I'm not at. Now, this phrase refers to oh, hello, Gloria. Scared. It's very good to see you, Gloria. It's been a while since I've seen you here. I hope you're doing well. All right, according to the Bledsoe, he received, Regulus. When Red Star Regulus aligns just before dawn in the gaze of the Sphinx, a new knowledge shall come into the world, allegedly. Oh, I'm not in North Korea yet. Yeah, and hopefully America doesn't turn into that. I agree. Not North Korea yet. Scared. The timing. Many followers of this prophecy point to Easter. So allegedly in Easter, it's going to turn red by the Sphinx as a significant window of the alignment to occur. The red star, while Regulus is naturally blue-white star, the brightest in the constellation Leo, the prophecy describes it turning red Yeah, skirt. Prophecy describes it turning red during this specific dawn alignment. The meaning. The proponent's belief is event marks a shift in human consciousness, the revelation of hidden new knowledge. Also, let's go. Okay, and that seems like a very cool idea. Let's see. Do this. Okay, let's see. The vampire effect. Many binary systems, one star is a cannibal if they are close enough. A dense white dwarf can pull a gas off its neighbor. This gas forms a accretion disk that spirals inward, heating up to millions of degrees and releasing massive amounts of X-ray energy. The energy potential. This gravitational potential energy is actually more efficient than nuclear fusion. If you dropped a marshmallow into a neutron star, it would hit with the force of an atom bomb. High-speed rotation energy. Because the binary stars orbit a common center of mass, they often spin incredibly fast to stay in balance. The idea, imagine a Dyson swarm, a shell of satellites built around a binary pair. You wouldn't just be catching light. You could theoretically use the shifting gravitational pull, the slingshot effect to accelerate the spacecraft or generate power through tidal force on a scale we can't even imagine. Oh, okay. Mintaka is an eclipsing binary. Okay, interesting. That is so cool. Thank you for that information. Our gravitational waves, when two very dense objects like the black holes or neutron stars orbit each other, they actually warp the fabric of space-time, sending out ripples called gravitational waves. The catch, right now we can only detect these ripples via LIGO, but in far future, harvesting the energy, those ripples would be equivalent of tapping into the battery of the universe itself, which would be so cool to be able to harness that energy. Alright, let's see this. Yeah, Mintaka Delta Orionis is indeed complex system which eclipsing binary at its heart. While it appears as a single star in Orion's belt, it's actually a hierarchy of multiple stars. Some sources count as many as 6 components in the total system. Very cool. The central powerhouse, the primary star we see from Earth, Delta Orionis A, is a triple system. Its core contains the eclipsing binary that we were talking about. The pair is 2 massive stars identified as AA1 and AA2. orbit each other every 5.73 days. Eclipse, because of our outer sight from Earth aligns with their orbit, they pass in front of each other, causing the system total brightness to dip slightly about 0.2 magnitude. Massive stars. The primary star is a binary, is roughly 25 times of the Sun, which is a secondary companion approximately 10 times the Sun's mass. Correct. Yes. Passion. Roughly 8.6 light years away. Sirius, a dog star, brilliant blue-white star, twice the mass of our Sun. Its main sequence, a star, but it's 25 times more luminous. Sirius B, the pup, is the white dwarf. It used to be brighter, more powerful star, but it burned out and collapsed. It's now about the size of Earth, but has a mass of the Sun. 1 teaspoon of Sirius B would weigh about 5 tons. If you want to harness the energy, the Sirius B white dwarf is your best bet because it is so dense. It has an incredibly intense gravitational field. The gravity, well, space-time is wrapped significantly around the pup. You could theoretically use gravitational slingshotting to gain incredible speed or trap into the thermal energy left over from its collapse. It's a very screaming hot 25,000 K. The no planet problem. Despite so close to Sirius, the place to build a home, the search of planets. Astronomers have searched for planets in the Sirius system, but so far we haven't found any. Because Sirius is A-B orbit each other in high eclipse egg-shaped path, any planet trying to orbit then would be pulled apart or flung into deep space by shifting gravity. Yeah, I was just thinking of that. Intense mass concentrated in a small area reduce the amount of tech you'd need. Right, exactly. Radiation. Sirius A puts into massive amount of UV radiation without a very thick atmosphere or living underground. A human traveler would be fried instantly. NASA's Parker Solar Probe, 13,000 years. Voyager 1, 145,000 years. Light speed, 8.6 years. Warp driver, a few days, weeks. So if we would have to use the warp drive, to get there, and it would take a few days or a few weeks. Light speed would take us 8.6 years. So we're going to go warp drive. The most interesting thing about visiting Sirius is that it is moving towards us. In about 60,000 years, it will be even closer, and its brightness will increase even more. around the white dwarf Sirius B easier than building one around a giant star, but the energy profile is different. Proximity is power. Because Sirius B is the size of Earth, you can get much closer to it than you could normal star, the habitable zone. Around a white dwarf, the zone where liquid water, optimal energy collection exists, is about 100 times closer than it is for the sun. Smaller ring. Less material. A ring is a distance smaller diameter. This means you'll significantly less raw material, an asteroid or moon complete the structure. Liquid water energy exists 100 times closer than that of our sun. Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury are suspiciously aligned at the moment, right in the Aquarius constellation too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, yeah, scared. Scared. Energy harvesting. Our sun puts our most visible light, white dwarf B, are extremely hot, 25,000 K. Spectrum. It emits a huge amount of ultraviolet UV X radiation. Gravitational anchor. Sirius B is incredibly dense. This creates a massive gravitational gradient. The benefit, you could use gravity of the white dwarf to tether your ring segments more securely, or even use frame dragging to help generate supplemental electromagnetic energy. Risk: if your ring segments lose their orbital velocity for even a second, the gradual pull is so intense it wouldn't just crash, it would be pulverized. Every 50 years, a massive, bright Sirius swings relatively close to B. Tidal force. The gravitational tug war between the two stars would put immense structural stress on the Dyson ring. It would need flexible or have thrusters to keep them being warped, shattered on A's passing gravity. Okay. How warp speed would be created, manipulating the fabric of space-time rather than pushing a ship through it. It's primarily explored through the Alcibiade drive, a mathematical model proposed by physicist Miguel in 1994. It was Miguel Alcibiade. The warp bubble. Instead of accelerating a ship to the speed of light, which physics forbids, the drive would create a bubble or flat space around the craft. Expansion. The contraction of the engine would contract space and time in front of the ship and expand it behind the bubble, then slides through space like a surfer on a wave. Since space-time itself has no speed limit, the bubble could move at superluminal faster than light speed while the ship remains stationary inside it. Exotic fuel. To create a distortion requires negative energy density. A substance with less energy than a vacuum, the Casimir effect, has shown this possible on a quantum scale. We haven't found a way to produce it in large amounts. Energy requirements. Early estimates suggest you need the energy equivalent of the entire visible universe to power a small ship. Modern refinements have lowered this mass of Jupiter, or even just the mass of the Voyager-sized spacecraft. OMG, there's a star named Altar, just like the Belt character from Assassin's Creed. That's a good game, by the way. 12 brightest stars, pancake from the high rotation. We'll look at that next. New positive energy models, recent 24 and 25. In those years, studies have proposed subliminal warp drives that use only regular positive energy like matter and light, though these models currently only work at speeds slower than light. Horizon problem. A crew inside the bubble would be cut off from bubble's walls, meaning they might not be able to turn the drive off once it started. Destructive alternative. Theory suggests the bubble moves, it would sweep up high energy particles and release them as a lethal blast of radiation at the destination. Oh, that has to be, that is certainly a sight to see. People that seen those, it looks like extraterrestrials, the Starlink satellites. Yeah, it's interesting to see that. Wow. Scared. The outer comes from the Arabic phrase al-Nasr al-Ta'ir, meaning the flying eagle, which exactly from the Assassin's Creed protagonist is the name Altar, and his eagle motifs. The pancake look that was mentioned by us is a wild bit of physics called the oblate spheroidal distortion. While our sun takes about 225 days to rotate once, the Altar spins so fast, roughly 9 hours, that its equator is bulging out nearly 300 kilometers per second. If it spun any faster, it would literally fly apart. The brightest star is constellation Aquilia, the eagle. The summer triangle. Along the Vego and Deneb, it forms the most famous navigational patterns in the sky. Proximity. It is one of our closest neighbors, only 16.7 light years away. How many satellites did he put there? Let's see. $5808 is intersecting. Starlink does have over 30,000 satellites up here. Yeah, this certainly must be the case, definitely. Let's see. Currently, okay, total launch. 11,154 satellites have been sent into space since the first craft in 2018. There are about 9,646 satellites currently circling Earth. Operational count. Out of those, roughly 8,377 to 9,636 are actively providing internet service, depending on how many there are. Internal parking orbits are being deorbited. So there's 11,000 satellites. You could see 4 at the same time. Wow. Scared. Yeah, it's a satellite train. When X launched a new batch of like 24 satellites, they are released close together over the next few weeks. These are on board Krypton ion thrusters to slowly spread out and move to higher orbits. And they're all intersecting. Oh, it looks like it's about time that they must be having an intergalactic meeting up there or something. Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's about either. Over 10 now. Oh yeah, I don't know. That is, yeah, that is really very. That would be a very freaky sight indeed. Yeah, over 10 now. They must all be having. They must have chose that part of the sky to have a meeting. And you can see their numbers too. Okay. Well, thank you for filling us in on that. Let's see. Yeah, because usually they're in like a train. It's like a whole, like a giant like train of them. Let's go there. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you see a string of them. Yeah, some people. I've not really looked for them, but I've not really seen. I can probably see it. I think I've seen it before. It's very distant. I know I've seen a satellite move across the sky before. Yeah, scared. It looks like it's so, Passion, you may have spotted an orbital intersection point. They follow specific tracks around the Earth, and it can look like a chaotic traffic jam from the ground. All lingering around in the Columbia constellation. Starlink isn't just one satellite, it's launched into different orbital planes. So yeah, it's an orbital sleuthing actual collision. To prevent actual collision, SpaceX uses automated collision avoidance systems. They aren't actually intersecting in 3D space. They are usually separated by several kilometers apart. Astronomers call these photobombs if you were trying to take a long exposure of Altair or Orion. Intersecting lines would be grid patterns across the image. Thank you, Passion. Seeing the satellites lingering or intersecting in Columbia constellation, the Dove, is due to the massive orbital reconfiguration SpaceX began in early 2026. Throughout 2026, SpaceX is migrating approximately 4,400 satellites, near half its operational fleet, from their original altitude of 550 kilometers down to lower 480 kilometers orbit. This migration causes several visual effects. Condensed orbits. As satellites descend, their orbits become more tightly packed. This stacking makes them appear to cluster or linger in specific patches of the sky. From your perspective, intersection junctions. Columbia is the south constellation because many Starlink satellites are in inclined orbits roughly 53 degrees. They reach their southernmost points and turn back north. These turnaround points create high traffic zones where different orbital planes appear to cross or intersect. SpaceX is performing this move to increase safety by flying lower. Any satellite that fails will naturally deorbit and burn up in months rather than years, preventing long-term space junk. Just today, February 11, 2026, SpaceX launched another 24 satellites from California. If you're in the southern hemisphere or southern U.S. states, you might be catching these newborns as they pass through southern skies to reach their target slots. So it looks like, Passion, they came from California and they now migrated to where you are. Alright, Patrick, it makes me want to play Kerbal Space Program again. It was fun figuring out how to orbit things in controlled manner. Oh, those games are really cool to play. And you can really figure out what's going on when you launch these things into space and how the controlled manners all function. Yeah. That is so cool, Passion, that you saw that. That you're seeing that, because those are from what was recently launched. I'm glad that you said with the constellation it's in and all. That was very, very cool too. This is something I will like about the internet. I like how everybody could just be in different places all over the world and can just talk simultaneously about what's going on. Really cool. The characters in that game in Kerbal Space Program, they remind me of Frankenstein, kind of. It's Canis Major and Lapus. Alright, there's another one. Oh yeah, Canis Major. Okay. Wild Cosmic Breakup Story. I remember spending hours figuring out thrust to weight ratios, because if you send people, you gotta get them back too, right? Yes. Some don't want to come back, but most people do, and most aliens do. So, yeah, everything has to be exactly calculated. Teacher told me a long time ago when I was in school that math has to be exactly precise. It can't be close, and yeah, to figure out the exact calculations to time it perfectly is really, it puts responsibility and realistic attributes to the game. It's Wild Cosmic Breakup Story. The star A.E. Aurigae is classic runaway star that was physically ejected from Orion Nebula 22.5 million years ago. The collision. A.E. Aurigae was originally part of binary system in the trapezium cluster. Its system had a violent encounter with another binary pair, likely a system containing Ulta Orions. Oh, I'd say that it's very probable that we may not have one then. Hypothetically. Scared. Yeah, the hospital can be a very serious thing, but I don't know all the technical about. They may still continue the trial anyway, but most likely probably will continue it. But it's possible it may not. Maybe she had a baby, yeah. But we're probably going to have a trial tomorrow. I'm not 100% certain what will happen, but we'll most likely we'll have one. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. Maybe not. I'm scared. Wild cosmic breakup story, and let's see, the slingshot during the gravitational do-si-do. The stars swap partners. 2 stars stayed behind, but A.E. Arrighe is former companion of Mu Columbae, were flung out to the opposite directions like an angry couple after a fight. Current speed. They are currently screaming away from each other at a combined speed of 200 kilometers per second. The flaming effect. AU Auriga is now passing through the random cloud of gas in the constellation Auriga. Because it's so hot, fast, it's ionizing gas. It plows through, creating flaming star nebula. Alright, so that's some interesting facts about astronomy, by the way. Alright. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, gravity slingshot is advanced spacecraft maneuvering to the cheapest from acceleration in the universe. Yeah. Alright, now going over this way. Let's see. Okay, well, okay, at this point in time, we are ending the stream for the night, and we'll come back on tomorrow. We'll see how this trial goes, if it does come on. And thank you, Pash, and Caravel and everyone else. I appreciate the information about the SpaceX Starlinks, right? And see y'all tomorrow, and peace.